Good afternoon. I call to order this Knox County meeting for June 28th at 5 p.m. Seated to my right is Vice Chair Kim Frazier and Deputy Law Director Mike Moyers. Seated to my left is Kim Ellis and Haley Evans with the Knox County Clerk's Office. I see no elected officials present. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Rawls.
Present.
Commissioner Derrick.
Present.
Commissioner Oster.
Here.
Commissioner Jackson.
Here.
Commissioner Russell.
Here.
Commissioner Hill. Here. Commissioner Lee.
Here.
Commissioner Thompson.
Here.
Commissioner Fox.
Here.
Commissioner Jay.
Here.
Commissioner Frazier.
Present.
All members are present.
Thank you. And I would like to recognize we have one of our junior commissioners on stage, is Miss Olivia. I'll now turn it over to Commissioner Hill for our devotion.
Thank you, Chair Oster. Thank you so much. A man walked into a doctor's office. The receptionist asked him what he had. He said, "I have the shingles." The receptionist took down his name and phone number and insurance information and told him to have a seat. 15 minutes later, a nurse's aide took the man to an examining room and asked him what he had. He said, "I have shingles." The aide took his height, his weight, medical history, and then told him to wait. Half an hour later, a nurse came in the room and asked the man what he had. He was pretty exasperated by this point. He said, "Shingles." The nurse took his blood pressure, told him to undress and wait for the doctor. An hour later, the doctor came in and asked the man what he had. "Shingles," the man said. "Where?" the doctor asked. "Outside in the truck," the man said. "Where do you want them?" Okay. Thank you. That goes to say, sometimes the message sent isn't always the message received. I could give you all kinds of definitions about even what AI says, about lack of clarity. Everyone understands how important communication is. One place I think that the message is always loud and clear, and that is if you are a believer. If you're a believer in Christ, you know that the love of God, what He did, how He sacrificed for us so that we may have eternal life, and the assurance that God is always in control is a message well received, and I hope to everyone in here well accepted. If everyone would bow, please. Thank you, Lord, for the privilege of coming together. Thank you for the privilege of our government, whether we agree or agree to disagree, even if sometimes communication isn't real clear. We pray that you'll always give us eyes wide open and insight to know the right thing to do. And always, Lord, let us honor you. Amen.
Thank you, Commissioner Hill. I'll now turn it over for the Pledge of Allegiance to Commissioner Lee.
If everyone could please stand and salute the flag for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner Lee. Now we'll go to the amendments on the agenda. If it's at the pleasure of the body, after we set the agenda, we'll entertain a motion on the education and general consent calendars, honorary resolutions and presentations, and then the rest of the agenda. We have no additions. Number 11 has been withdrawn. Defer to August is number 57. Defer to September is number 46, 50, and 61. And notice that the number 46 is a presentation from Orrin, and that's was meant to be on September's agenda. So again, defer to August is number 57, defer to September's 46, 50, and 61. Non-consent is 44 and 45, 51 through 53, 56, 58 through 60, and 62. Again, non-consent, 44 and 45, 51 through 53, 56, 58 through 60, and 62. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Madam Chair, could we have some discussion on that, Madam Chair?
Yes, I'm sorry, yes. Well, we've got to do a motion and a second first.
Okay.
Yes, so the motion, I'm sorry, was,
Motion to accept the agenda?
I second.
okay, the motion was made by Frazier and seconded by Fox. Okay, now discussion.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to note, after speaking with Director Parton, I would like to return item 60 to the consent calendar.
Okay. 62. So that 62 goes back onto the consent.
Item 60,
calendar.
item 60.
60.
Yes, item
Okay,
60.
60.
Yes.
Sorry about that. All right. Okay, so we got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Frazier, second by Commissioner Fox. Any further discussion? Commissioner Jackson?
This is just a point of clarification. So you wanted to put 44 and 45, the honorary resolutions, to non-consent? Is that normal?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Commissioner Durrett?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think since we have just changed the consent agenda, we'll have to do a new motion to include
Oh, you're
60
right.
being added
Yeah.
back to the consent calendar.
Thank you. Okay. So we need a new motion because number 60 is being added back to the consent calendar.
Motion to approve is presented.
Second.
Both of you were on the same time. Commissioner, motion made by Commissioner Hill and a second by Commissioner Frazier. Commissioner Fox?
Yes.
Do you have another,
Oh, I'm sorry, Madam.
That's okay. All right. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. All right. I will now entertain a motion to, we've already set the agenda. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the education and general consent calendar.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Jay, second by Commissioner Rawls. Do I have any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Next item, please, Madam Clerk.
It's Resolution R-25-7-101. It's honoring the Gibbs High School softball team for winning the 2025 state championship.
Do I have a motion on the floor to approve?
I'm getting there.
I was giving you time.
If you want to
Do I
come
have
over?
a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion? Seeing none?
Yeah, come on. Don't be shy.
Frazier. All right, so we've got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Thompson, second by Commissioner Frazier. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Commissioner Thompson, the floor is yours.
Give me just a second. Well, I knew I'd have to write this down because I would fumble it over if I didn't. But it is with great pride that I present to you the winningest public school softball program in Tennessee. With 12 state titles. The legendary Coach Carol Mitchell, who was named TSSAA Coach of the Year for 2025, has either played in or coached 11 of those 12 championship seasons. In addition to coaching at the high school level, she also coaches Gibbs Middle School softball, fostering a close, cohesive bond in a team that develops young girls into young ladies who strive for excellence on and off the field. I'm incredibly honored to have witnessed this program as a graduate of Gibbs High School, and now as their proud representative. This is where I was going to make my motion, but you jumped the gun on me. I'd like to make a motion
Sorry
that we
about that.
pass this resolution to celebrate and recognize the 2024-2025 Gibbs Lady Eagles softball team.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor in a second.
Commissioners, whereas the Gibbs High School Lady Eagles softball team recently prevailed over DeKalb County with a 1-0 win in 10 innings to secure the Class 3A TSSAA state championship title, and whereas this state tournament victory earned the Gibbs Lady Eagles their 12th state title in program history and marked back-to-back state titles for the team, and whereas the Gibbs Lady Eagles softball team ended this season with a dominating 41-3 record with 18 straight wins to finish the season and 21 shutouts. And whereas leading up to the state tournament, which was their 38th state tournament appearance in 44 years, the Gibbs Lady Eagles were district champions for the 42nd time in 44 years. Region champions for the 33rd time in 44 years, sectional champions, and won first place in the Hickson High School Wildcat Classic. And whereas under the guidance of head coach Carol Mitchell, the Lady Eagles demonstrated unmatched skill, teamwork, determination, and resilience this season, and their relentless pursuit of excellence secured them another well-deserved state title and the honor of being the winningest public softball program in Tennessee with 12 state championships. And whereas the Knox County Commission desires to recognize and congratulate the Gibbs Lady Eagles softball team and all associated with the program for capping a historic season by winning back-to-back state titles and the 12th state title in program history. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Commission of Knox County as follows. The Commission of Knox County hereby honors the Gibbs Lady Eagles softball team for an outstanding 2025 season, which culminated in winning the coveted Class 3A TSSAA state championship title. Be it further resolved that this resolution be presented to the Gibbs Lady Eagles softball team. Be it further resolved that this resolution is to take effect from and after its passage, as provided by the Charter of Knox County, Tennessee, the public welfare requiring it. Congratulations. If you all don't mind, I would love to have Coach Mitchell say a few words. There is no time limit. You're good.
No time limit. Y'all want to be here a while or no? No, just kidding. Adam asked me to speak a little bit about this year's team. He pretty much covered it all in this, but I would like to address the fact that none of this would happen if we didn't have the right coaches in place and girls that work extremely hard for the softball program. Like he said, most of these girls started in sixth grade, kind of with their softball career as a Gibbs Eagle. And, they understand as they move through middle school that these, that being a part of this team and the winning program is something that they take pride in. And, they don't want to be that team that lets us down. Not that happens, but that's how they feel. So for 2 years in a row, we've ended our season with a win, which doesn't happen a lot. And again, the last year I talked a little bit about the how it's a pleasure to work with these kids. Like, they do exactly what you tell them to do. Maybe it looks funny at first, but they come around and they get it. They work hard. The coaches work hard, planning practices, and the games are easy, really, compared to what the practices are. So it's just been a joy to work with them. And most of these girls were here last year, and so they've experienced 2 in a row. So we're hoping maybe we can do it 3 in a row. So we'll see if we can make that happen.
Thank you. And 3 in a row is not out of the realm of possibility. It has been done before. So,
Adam, do we know, or any of these young women out here, did their mamas play?
Yes.
Let me see, who?
You're the only one.
Well, that's another congratulations.
Her mother was on the team of my first year coaching.
Wow,
Yeah,
wow.
yeah. So it was quite interesting. But anyway, I was going to say something, but I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, I know what I was going to say. So in our classification, there's been 4 times that a three-peat has happened, and Gibbs High School has been 2 of those 4. So
Wow, wow.
there's that.
and did you
Commissioner
get
Tom-
your 1,000th win this year?
1,100.
1,100. You got your 1,100th win this
Wow.
year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Commissioner Thompson, would you like to do a picture?
Yeah, would you mind?
Nope.
Okay.
Great.
Up
Yeah,
there.
yes, y'all want to?
This is the best part, the picture.
I know, right?
Oh, yeah, they're good at pictures.
You gotta do the squat.
Ready? 3, 2, 1.
Okay.
More. 3, 2, 1. Perfect.
Sorry about that.
I know I did. I'm so sorry. And I was so busy this weekend. I had planned on it all week.
I was even, and Shane didn't bring my coat.
Well, we both owe you.
If you want to, or you can just make the motion and just say your. Okay, that's fine. That's very impressive young women for our future. All right, Madam Clerk, if you'll read the next item.
The next item is Resolution R-25-7-102. It's honoring the West High School football team for winning back-to-back state titles for winning the TSSAA Class 5A football state championships in both 2022 and 2023.
I have a motion.
Second. I make a motion.
Mr. Jackson make the motion?
I made the motion.
Okay, so it's Commissioner Jackson who's second. Jay was second? Okay. All right, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Commissioner Jackson, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you very much. As I mentioned last week, the West football team has gone through a difficult time over the last few months, and this resolution, when I was going through this and talking to the parents and talking to the football booster club, one of the members said, we won 2 state championships and we never got anything from the county. And I said, I can rectify that. And thank you very much for signing on to this. And I will let everybody know when we make the formal presentation. But this is a resolution honoring the youth and the young men who fought hard 2 years and brought back-to-back state championships.
That's awesome. Thank you, Commissioner Jackson. All right, Madam Clerk, next item, please.
We're on item number 47, presentation, Knoxville Association of Realtors, Maria McHale.
Thank you so much for giving me some time today. And man, I hate to follow up the good vibes with statistics. Ew. I'll try and make it brief and painless for you guys. And, to continue with some of the good news that we've had in this meeting so far, we actually haven't done terribly. I know you all have heard this presentation in various forms over the last few years. Things have been pretty rough since 2020, but 2024 was actually a little bit better. So go us, and we can keep going in that direction. Next slide, please. So I'll be brief. There are a number of slides in here because I wanted to get these charts in front of you guys. You have the full presentation, the full report on your desk there in paper form. On the back of that report are 2 QR codes, one to subscribe to our monthly data newsletter, and then one to get to the report online, which there's also a very painful 90-minute version of me doing this over Zoom. If you want to send that to anyone that you dislike, I highly recommend it. And then, we'd be grateful and happy if any of you wanted to come out and kind of do a workshop with us and go into it in a little bit more detail, and then we can ask some questions and, make it more applicable for you folks. So briefly, since 2020, the theme of this year has kind of been normalization. The pandemic threw a big wrench in the spanner. Things went a little bit crazy for a minute. We saw a variety of factors lead to a huge increase in housing prices here over the last 5 years. We've been one of the top 3 to 5 markets in the entire country for price appreciation since 2020, and that is finally starting to slow down now. So that's the good news, is we've finished everything that came out of the pandemic, crazy interest rates, in migration to East Tennessee. And so when you hear numbers, and we're saying numbers like things are down from last year, or, prices have slowed down, I want everybody to realize that that is a stabilization of the market. That's very good news. That's what we need for a healthy economy. That's what we need for people to be able to afford basic services. And so that's not a reason to panic based on the ups and downs of the last 5 years. Next slide, please. So I'll be very brief here. We don't want to talk about inflation. That's no fun. But what is really important is I think a lot of the things that are happening nationally are affecting us a lot more locally than they previously would have. And that's taking the form of consumers being very concerned. We're concerned about recession. We're concerned about the price of eggs and gasoline. We're concerned about the price of the home insurance on our, homes that are now worth so much more than they were 5 years ago. And so that's something we have to keep in mind when we're talking to our constituents and, the folks out there that are asking what are happening, is trying to kind of strike that balance between doomsday and things being okay, and giving them back a little bit of reassurance that we're back on kind of the path that we should have been in terms of market forces, and so don't panic. I also think there's something happening where people are waiting for interest rates to go back down to 2%, and that's just not happening, y'all. I'm so sorry to tell you that. So next slide, please. Very quickly, this is just putting into perspective, we've had some local ups and downs based on the things, again, that have happened nationally, but you can see where we had incredible increase in 2021 and 2022 of our gross domestic product here. And for the record, the Knoxville TN Metro is us and the surrounding 8 counties, so not just Knox County, because this is census data. But it kind of puts into perspective when we say that the growth rate has dropped since 2021, that is wildly out of the ordinary for us. And you can kind of see now we're back at more about a 2.7% rate. That's more where we should have been if that trend had continued without the pandemic. Next slide, please. This is a very complicated looking chart, but essentially all it's showing is that we had somewhat normal activity in terms of mortgage rate goes up, the number of originations or people buying homes with mortgages or refinancing goes down a little bit, right? It's a little bit more expensive, a little bit less demand. And then we have this situation happen in 2021, 2022, where all of a sudden the interest rates drop down to high 2s, low 3%. And you can see how out of the ordinary that spike was in applications. And so that matters because a lot of people for the last 5 years have really been locked into their mortgage. They couldn't move. And that's, when your home appreciates in value, that's not real money that you get to put in your pocket. That just means more fees unless you're selling your house, which then sometimes also leads to more taxes and things of that nature. So home price appreciations are good for people who own a home, but not necessarily great for all of us who are trying to just deal with maintenance costs and property taxes. Next slide, please. The labor market continues to grow. This is, the orange line is 2020 there, so showing that if you just kind of squint and look at that trend line, again, we're back on the trajectory where we should have been, minus some little bumps. Knox County is doing fantastic. Our unemployment rate is about 2.6%, which is better than both the state and the country, so go us. Economy is strong. Everybody moving here has helped with that, as much as we like to demonize them, and we'll talk about that a little bit in a minute. Next slide, please. This is an interesting one, and the folks from the chamber and a lot of other smart people that are smarter than me are working on this, but we do have somewhat of a workforce mismatch, and housing plays into that, and I'll tell you what that means in a second. But essentially, almost half of our workforce is not participating actively in the job market, and that's a problem. So whether that's because people lost childcare during the pandemic, whether they got burnt out and decided to sell baskets on Etsy, there's a number of reasons that these things could be happening. But essentially, we think that there's somewhat of a mismatch between the jobs that we have and the jobs that we're trying to bring in and the training that people have, and that's really important. If you look at the lowest paid workforce category that we have, it's about a $31,000 mean annual wage. That's service folks, so restaurant workers, hotel workers, those types of people. And that's also the highest forecasted need. And I'm sure the chamber folks throwing them under the bus would be happy to share with you, but they use a really cool forecasting software that essentially tells you this is how many workers we might need in any given category, and that's also the highest area of need. And that's a problem because they can't afford to live in Knox County. And so we have people that are commuting in from other counties, other areas, and eventually are just going to decide to work out there where it's closer and easier for them. So housing, labor, workforce, these things are all tied so closely together, and when we're making decisions on one category, we have to think about what it's doing to the other categories. Next slide, please. Very quickly, housing, 2024 was better. For the first time in 2 years, we had positive sales growth. There were actually some homes on the market to sell. Prices still increased about 12%, which is not great. That's still a little bit scary, but as of this year, it's much better. We're at about 4% right now, so that's way improved from the last few years. One thing that we do need to note here is that in Knox County, if we don't solve our problems, we're pushing them out to other counties. Our rural outer lying counties are dealing with our issues in terms of we are driving up their home prices because people can't afford to live here, the commutes that we talked about, the lack of infrastructure when they're not prepared for the influx of people that we aren't able to handle here. And so that's also something that we have to think about as we're making decisions locally. Next slide, please. This is just showing the dip in listings. So housing inventory, great news. We're back to where we were in about 2019, so that's fantastic. We have survived, essentially, that pandemic period. The bad news here is that we added about 50,000 residents in our 9-county region at the same time. So while we've caught up to where we were in 2019, we now have a lot more people to serve. Next slide, please. Under building, so if you use the historical rate of building, industry standard is about 1% of the number of households. That's a healthy rate of building. And so if we use that metric, then we underbuilt by about 23,000 units of housing since the financial crisis in 2007, 2008. So the important part to note about this is that this is not a recent problem. We've had this problem for a while. We've been underbuilding for a long time. And regardless of what you think the solution is, that's just a fact that we don't have enough houses for the people who live here, let alone the people that are moving in. Next slide, please. I'll make it quick on this one. If your house was valued at $250,000 in 2020, just 5 years later, it's now worth about $430,000. So let that sink in for a second. Next slide, please. A refrain that everybody loves is to blame everything on the investors, and this slide is just telling y'all it's not the investors' fault. They had very little effect on both the raise in prices, and they own less than 10% of homes in Knox County. So also when I define an investor, I'm talking about someone who's doing this industrially, someone that's got a business, not any of you folks who have been really good with your money and own 2 houses. Go you, I'll get there someday, but this is not you on this slide. And essentially the reason why is, investors are seeing an opportunity with our prices appreciating so fast. They're buying something that's blighted or falling over or has a lot of problems and putting it back on the market. So it actually didn't inflate the price nearly at all. And something that inflated home prices more than investors would have been cash purchases from those evil people from California that we really dislike, like me. But I got here 12 years ago for the record, so this is not my fault. Next slide, please. Homes are getting bigger and more expensive. So if you guys take one thing away from this, we need smaller houses. And I know that that's not necessarily a popular comment in a lot of neighborhoods and a lot of areas in Knox County, but we need smaller houses on smaller lots desperately. Both for price reasons and because we have a growing demographic of seniors who need those homes and are competing with first-time buyers and families that need something small and reasonable. And they're both of those groups are edging each other out of the market. So that's a big problem. We are seeing homes for the last 4 to 5 years got bigger and more expensive on average until we got to about an average of 2,300 square feet, which is pretty big. They're starting kind of to come back a little bit. Builders are doing their best to build smaller, but the finances of that do not work if the lot size required is 1 to 2 acres. So that's something that we just need to consider as we're making decisions. Next slide. Housing affordability, we're at a 40-year low, so it hasn't, it's worse than it's been since about 1985. So, you know, just kind of showing over time where we've gone, and I can get more into detail on that later, but I promise not to be too pressing. So, next slide. This is in the report for you all to look at. I'm not going to belabor the numbers, but just take a look at what these real costs mean to people. I mean, I don't think any of us have $27,000 in our pocket, and that's what happens when these prices appreciate this quickly. And so, you know, people will ask, is my house going to go backward? Is it going to be worth less in a few years? The answer is no. It's going to continue to appreciate, but we don't want it to happen this fast. This is not healthy. And this is what's driving up things like insurance costs and maintenance costs. And I had a plumber tell me that I needed to pay him $900 today to fix the toilet. So we're going to talk about that later. But all of those things really are in the same bucket, and all those costs rise as housing prices go up. Next slide, please. Again, putting this into perspective, you know, if you want a healthy economy in housing in Knox County, ideally, someone making the median income would be able to afford about half of the available houses. Right now, we're at about 15%. So that's a very, very small number of homes that can be afforded by people making a normal income here. And when you think about things like school zones, the number of bedrooms that you need, do you need a fenced-in yard for your dog? That really is cutting down the number of available listings. And so we have a lot of people that are competing for the exact same homes. To afford just half of all the homes for sale, our median income would need to be $136,000 a year. So I don't think most of us make that much. And I do want to give us some credit. Our economy is healthy. Our job growth has been healthy. Our wage growth has been healthy. This is not that problem, right? So the solution is not asking for a $20 minimum wage. We're doing really well. The problem is that we don't have enough supply, and so it's driven those costs astronomically higher. And so I do think, you know, if people are asking that question, is it because we're not paying our people enough? That's a separate topic, but overall, that's not the issue. Next slide, please. Building materials are very expensive. If your inputs have increased by 50%, so is the price of your house. That's essentially that. Next slide. And also land costs. So this is showing between 2012 and 2023, which was the most recent data that I had when we made this report. And you can see the astronomical increase of the underlying land, which also dovetails into those house prices. So again, this is where if we want anything to be remotely affordable, it's going to have to be on a smaller lot. And that's the average value of a quarter-acre lot, by the way, those prices. Next slide, please. I won't harp on these too much, but the long story short is we still have a distinct homeownership disparity among different races, different income classes. This is a problem. If you look at the numbers on this slide, we're doing worse than the state and the country in terms of our disparity gap. And I think, you know, that really relates to geographic locations and, you know, what banks see as good lending and that type of situation. And maybe, Shane, you can fix that single-handedly over there at Pinnacle. But this is an education problem, too, I think. And so, you know, as commissioners, I believe we need to think more about how can we be increasing financial literacy? How can we be giving more access to resources to support homeownership in these communities? Next slide. Same thing here. Black borrowers are more than twice as likely to purchase a home in a low-income area than the other racial groups. Next slide. All right, talking about rent really quickly, and I promise we're almost done here. Rent is a really good indicator of how we're doing on supply because it reacts a lot faster than the housing market. You're renewing your contract every 12 months, and so if we have enough supply, the rent goes down. If we don't, it goes up. The last couple of years, we've done really well. 2022 to 2024 was some of the highest building that we've had on record, so kudos to you all for that. And rent did go down. Actually, for a short period of time, we were negative almost 2% on rent growth, so that was fantastic news. This year, we're kind of starting to see it go back the other direction, so we have to keep up. And I want to give you guys some hope, but also some motivation. So if you look at the Knox County, Knoxville Planning Report for 2024 development, we delivered about 5,600 units total, right? And that was more than 1,000 than we delivered in the past 2 years before that. So we did ramp up. We did much better. We removed some barriers, especially to multifamily housing. That's really important. But we need to keep that going. So if you look at the number of units that we need, there was a recent report that said in our metro area, which Knox County has the bulk of that population, but it is 9 counties, we needed at least 10,500 more housing units right now at all price levels, not just the lowest, not just the highest, everywhere. And if we just do a simple population calculation, which we actually have a lot more than it would seem, but very simple math, we would be responsible for about 6,000 of those units. So that's more than doubling, right, the current rate of production. So that's good news, though, because it's not insane. We're actually we're getting there slowly. And if we can just do it a little bit better, remove a little bit more barriers, build a few more homes on the pieces of land that we have, we could potentially be out of this problem within the next 5 years. So that's really something to think about as we're talking policy. Next slide, please. Again, with the apartments, undersupply, high demand. So you can see that kind of gap there between 2022, 2024. That's where we really want to be. That's where we're doing well. That occupancy is dropping down below 96%. A healthy occupancy is more like 94, but that's better. We're kind of ticking back up into the high 95s this year, so that's what we don't want to see. And if anybody's asking you, are all those luxury apartments sitting empty? The answer is no. Next slide. And this just really quickly, we're all, single and depressed and sitting in front of our Netflix instead of living with multi-generations of family like we were previously. And so the household size is declining, again, to the smaller homes, smaller lots, more condos, more townhomes kind of situation here. We don't have as many people living in each home as we did previously. And so that's another mismatch with the number of bedrooms and the amount of space in the homes that we're offering. We actually need a lot more smaller and single bedroom homes if you're talking about apartments. Next slide. Migration trends. We are not having enough children to sustain our own population, so we should be happy that people are moving here. Our population growth is being driven exclusively by migration, and a lot of the economic health and success that we're seeing is coming from those trends. So, next slide. And lastly, our age 65 and older population has crested about a third at this point, and it's going to continue climbing. So that's something that we also need to think about when we're advocating to you all for types of housing like, cottage court and duplexes and things like that, where seniors can actually walk to the grocery store and the laundromat and talk to their neighbors without getting in a car. This is going to become even more and more important. Next slide. All right. You survived it. We're done. So this is the updated forecast. We were hoping at the beginning of this year that prices were only going to grow about 2.9%. I don't think we'll quite make that. That would have required some other things nationally to go better than they did. But right now we're at a little bit over 4, which is way better than a 12% increase year over year. So that's good news. Forecasting a small increase in home sales. Hopefully, we've got a lot of inventory coming back on the market. That's great news. And rent growth is, as I said, it's ticking back up a little bit, but that's actually not a terrible increase. It's pretty steady. So we're doing decently. We just need to keep the apartments coming. And that's pretty much all I have for you all today. Please do scan those QR codes and let's talk. I'd be happy to host you all and really dig in and answer a lot of questions. Appreciate it.
Let me get some questions for you. I
sure.
think you've got some. Commissioner Rawls.
Over this way, ma'am.
How are you?
Fantastic. Couple of questions.
Sure.
Art, how much, if you don't have this information, it's fine, and you want to maybe pull it up later, but how much of Knoxville's inventory is is owned by corporations or funds, similar to like BlackRock or somebody?
Yeah, so that's kind of what we were looking at earlier when we were saying investors. The way that we
Yeah.
define that is anybody that has a business attached to their name, essentially. So if it's an LLC and you've got 15 homes, that counts as an investor. If it's BlackRock, that counts as an investor. So it's less than 10%. And actually, if you look at single-family housing in Knox County, so that is including, the 10% is including apartments. Single-family housing is less than 1%. So if anybody's panicking about investors, that's probably not where we should be focused.
You said less than 1%?
Correct, of single family, yes.
All right. Do we know which areas of the city that is?
The way that those markets are delineated is a little bit different, but a lot of it is kind of in the middle of the city. So where you see a lot of student housing, that number threw it off significantly. I mean, thinking about the fact that we're delivering about 5,600 units and maybe 2,000 of those were on the Strip in 2024. So, but mostly in what you would consider probably the city proper, that area. And if you're talking about just the county, actually, surprisingly, some of it is Northwest, and then South Knoxville.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Commissioner Jackson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. McHale, do you have a number on how many houses we need in order to meet the market today, and what is the expectation over the next 4 to 5 years?
Yeah. So the report that I referenced was done by the National Association of Realtors for our 9-county area that said 10,500 homes today. I think that was pretty conservative. There are different ways of looking at that number, so I like to lean on one that was, published nationally, but you could say anywhere between that 10,000 number and the 20,000 number that I was showing you earlier of how many homes we've underbuilt. And if you look at Knox County specifically, if you just look at the population increase that we had, we would owe at least 6,000 of those units right now. So I think that's a number that we can live with, even though it's probably lower than reality. And that is population as of today. The increase has slowed down. So for a minute there, I mean, we were adding 6,000 people a year in Knox County, which is not normal for us, right? And so I think now we're closer to a 2% mark, which is healthy but not insane. So, the University of Tennessee has some really good estimates on that, but I think we need this sustained pace right now. The problem is that we would need those 5,000 units, 6,000 units this minute for our current residents. And so then you can kind of extrapolate if we were only able to increase by 1,000 units, and I think everybody here worked really hard on that in the last 2 or 3 years. We'd need to double or triple that to get to where we need to be equilibrium-wise and then continue that pace going forward. So I think that's good news, though. It's don't panic because we can do that. In terms of apartments, the forecasted need in Knox County was only 700 more apartments than we built last year. So, I mean, we're close. We're very close.
Very good, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Commissioner Thompson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The question I had was, when you referenced, when we're looking at policy moving forward and rezonings and applications and things like that, do you have a number, if you looked at the potential units that have already been rezoned but have not broken ground? Do you have any idea how many potential units we have that have not broken ground but have been rezoned, that we're basically waiting on the builders to build?
We can calculate that, and typically we're looking at permits and completions, which is a little bit different, but I guess what I would say to that is if you look at the planning report on development in 2024, we just went back to 2019 levels, right? So it feels like a big increase, and we are doing better, and we are putting effort into that, but where I would say about that is the rezonings, we're kind of where we were 4 or 5 years ago, so it's not actually as much as it feels like it is. Now, in terms of units, I'll figure that out and send you something. But I wouldn't say, if the question is, have we kind of solved that problem within the last year and a half? I think the answer is no. We've made some really good progress toward it, but not quite. And to that point, I think we've talked a lot in here about advanced Knox and about corridors and where we need to put that housing, and we really just need to try to stick to that so that we're doing it in the right places and not continuing to spread out into the rest of the county. Because also, if you look at that planning report on development, we don't have that many places where we can create more lots.
Mm-hmm. Right. Now, I was just trying to, I guess, address Commissioner Jackson's question of, how many units would it take for us to meet the demand? And over the last several years, how many potential units have we rezoned and allowed, but they've not broken ground yet? I guess that's what all I was asking, so.
Yeah. No, I'll try to
I mean, if
figure
you don't
that out
mind
and
to
send
look
it to
into
you.
that, or-
Absolutely.
I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Fox?
Thank you, Madam Chair. What do you think about the premise that people of high means move into Knox County because there aren't enough luxury homes are competing with people, local residents who are seeking to move into move-up housing? And then those residents, because they're having to compete with out-of-state or out-of-county move-ins, are then competing, they can't move up, so then they're competing with starter home, people who desire to move into a starter home and so on and so forth, creating a problem with the housing inventory. So really, in other words, what I'm saying is there's a dearth of housing at the super high end that has a cascading effect on the rest of the housing inventory.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct, and that's very astute of you. It's in the report, and the report that I referenced, the 10,500 homes that are needed, it will show you broken down by income level, and so you can kind of extrapolate. That's not home size, but it shows that there are a small number that are still needed at the high end of that luxury market, but that the most homes that we need are at the median income and lower. So that is 100% happening. And if you look back at that chart about investors, the cash purchasers, those are typically people with more income, are coming in, they're buying that, 1,800 square foot home that should have been a starter home for twice as much and throwing cash down on it, which then rules out the person who traditionally would have been looking for that home in the market, and they're being pushed out. And so we're seeing two effects from that. One, we have a lot of people who financially should be able to purchase a home based on what's publicly available data, but they're still renting. And so that's part of the reason why. Then we also see an effect where we're pushing people out into other counties where they can actually afford homes. And so we're losing workforce, and disproportionately we're losing our young workforce because they're in that point, the average age of a home buyer is now in the high 30s, so they're in that point where they can't afford it yet. So 100%, that is absolutely happening, but the number of homes that we need in the luxury market right now is much smaller than what we need in those other categories.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Hill? I'm sorry, Commissioner Jay.
Oh, no.
I apologize, it jumped on me.
Thank you,
Go ahead.
Madam Chair. I think one of your statistics outlined that the only 15% of the sort of average person in Knoxville can afford a home at this point. Have you all been able to project out if we had how many more units or the types of units they could afford? I mean, where does that affordability, how does that look in a forecast for 10 years if we do X, Y, and Z? Have you been able to really analyze that? Because that's the ultimate goal. I mean, the thing that we hear from constituents the most is they're terrified that their kids and their grandkids will never stay here. And the harder that gets, the more likely it's not to happen. So where do those numbers really start to make a move?
Yes, there are a couple of things in the report there. We're doing better than we were the last couple of years, but so the statistic is that someone making the median income, which for Knox County is somewhere around $72,000 a year, and that's a family, right? So that could be two people that are contributing that together. That's a household. Those people could only afford 15% of the listings currently on the market. And so this is why I'm kind of talking about we need different inventory than we have right now. We need to make it easier for people to build smaller homes. We need to make it easier to build density. And if we did that right now, if we just took my wish list of policies and put them all in place immediately, we could solve that problem within the next couple of years, and your kids would be able to afford to live here potentially. I think there are a couple of issues there. One, we do just need more supply across the board, but we don't just need homes in the luxury category because we have to build something that's smaller. A lot of the builders and developers are trying to do that, but based on land costs, material costs, everything we just talked about, that's very difficult. And so we need to do everything that we can from a, zoning and incentive and all those types of perspectives to make it easier for them to build those homes that are going to be in that affordable range right now. If you wait for the market to do that and we just, continue with the 1 to 2 acre lots and the big homes, I had a realtor tell me the other day they saw one that was 12,000 square feet, which was crazy. I hope someone is interested in that. But if we keep going in that direction, the market is not going to fix itself because we're going to run out of space and we won't have magically something that's in the $250,000 price range. So I hope that kind of answers the question.
No, that's perfect. Two other quick questions. The rising number of seniors and the senior population that's growing here, have you all been able to do a deep dive into sort of the motivations of the seniors that are stuck and the inventory that they would likely move to if they could but isn't available?
Yeah, so that's both a census data thing and it's storytelling, from our members, because that's something that's hard to quantify. I can't tell you exactly the number of seniors that would buy a smaller house if they could right now, right? But anecdotally, we hear that a lot from seniors, that they don't want a 5-bedroom house with a giant yard that they have to maintain. They want something smaller, but they want something smaller that's nice, that's in their kind of standard of living. And so that's also a problem, is that right now, the inventory is so limited that they're being forced to buy whatever is out there that's available. And so to Commissioner Fox's point, they are buying that smaller home. And then a lot of times they're renovating it and driving the price up, and it immediately becomes more expensive than it was a second ago. So they do want those smaller homes. They need that. And a lot of times they want to be closer to family too. So that's also why we need to have a mix of housing diversity in our neighborhoods, is so that if they want to live closer to their family that lives over here, they need to have something within a 5-10 mile radius that is small in their price range and close to where they want to be. So it is somewhat anecdotal, but yes.
And my last question is, when you look at all this data, we're, eminently through in the middle of and beginning the UDO, sort of the meat and potatoes of the UDO. Will you be looking at specific policy changes or things and making recommendations that tie specifically to that work and sharing this report with all of the stakeholders that are involved with the UDO process?
Yes, 100%. We've already been quite an outspoken voice in that process, so bless the folks at the county that are working on that. But yes, because this is kind of our chance to make the zoning align with what we've said we want to do in Advanced Knox, but right now is pretty much impossible. So we need to fix that in the zoning code so that we can build where we say we want to on the corridors at the appropriate density with the amenities that we want to see. And then we also need to think about how can we diversify a little bit what we're allowing. We need more multi-use where we've got commercial and residential close to each other with amenities that people want. We'd all like to be able to walk to a coffee shop kind of situation. So a lot of that is what we're talking about and how we're considering, and hopefully the experts are going to help us figure out how to make that reality.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Commissioner Hill.
Thank you. And thank you for being here. I heard you say a statistic involving UT. Was that with apartments built?
Yeah. So part of kind of what threw the numbers off a little bit over the last year was the development on the Strip and the number of apartments built in a short period of time because of that development. So I think that the multifamily was an outsized portion of what we normally deliver. We don't usually do that many apartments at one time. I mean, I'd love it if we did in other places, but so there were a couple of thousand units delivered and some of those are still outstanding. Some of that construction still isn't finished, but there were a couple of thousand of those delivered just within that 2-year, 2023 to 2024 period that we were just discussing.
Does that number, or is there any way you can take into account, and really UT was probably be would be the largest statistic in this as far as units that go offline?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, I mean, I think what I would point to there is, regardless of how many units have delivered last year versus this year, the occupancy percentage is what we're looking at, and that has not wiggled as much as you would think it would with that amount of supply. Actually, what happened was for a brief period of time, it made rent go down because we did have more availability, and we went from that 97.5% occupancy, which is extremely high, back down to, high 95s, 96s. And so when that happens, then there's not as much pressure on the market. Those rents went down. Now we're kind of starting to creep back up. So that may be the result of some of those becoming occupied, but it may also just be the general in-migration still continuing.
Thank you.
Commissioner Lee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I had a question, kind of piggybacking on Commissioner Thompson. Okay, you made the statement that a couple thousand units weren't added in from UT, is that correct?
No, I was saying that over the number of apartments that were delivered was extremely high that year, but it's because it included those 2,000 from, that were student housing.
Okay.
And so that kind of threw it off a little bit because, again, we don't normally see that many that are delivered at the exact same time.
Okay. What was the number that you said we were short or that we needed? Was there a 10,000?
Yes, so that
Okay.
was the 9-county metro area, so Knox and then the surrounding counties that touch it essentially. The number was 10,500 units, which again, I think is somewhat conservative. And that was the number of units that we needed right this minute, not taking into account future population growth. And then what I'd said was, just to kind of extrapolate based on Knox County's population, we would be responsible for at least 6,000 of those units right now.
So is the figure 6,000 just for Knox County? Okay.
I think
And
that's
then,
reasonable.
My follow-up question was, so how far back have you not accounted for? Because we've had a lot of rezoning and a lot of subdivisions that's been approved. How far back have you, started? So I'm saying that based upon the zoning that we've approved, there's going to be more units that are going to be available. I mean, did you go back to, because if this is the state of housing for 2025, is your data reflective through 23, or where's the stopping point so we know how many's kind of in the pipeline?
Yeah. I would say that this is through 2024. And so some of that census data in there you're going to see is from 2023 because, the point that we're producing the report. But that just means that we actually have more population now than we did when I did that calculation. So it's ostensibly we need more units. And I think if you look at year over year, the number that we're producing, you see that increasing. And so that's what we're talking about. The planning report that they did on development in 2024. So that was covering the entire year of 2024. And you can also look back at the last few years previous to that. We've delivered about 1,000 more units than we did year over year. And so that does point to the number of rezonings and the amount of effort that's being put in to try to remove some barriers and do those kinds of things. But the estimate is taking that into account right now. That report that said 10,500 units was done 2 months ago. So that's pretty much current, I would say, to the beginning of this year.
But that 10,000 was counting the other counties as well, correct?
Yes.
Okay. But Knox County, you said more was in line 6,000?
Sure.
Okay. Thank
Yep.
you. Thank you.
Ms. McHale, thank you for coming. This is something that I know all too well. So
Yep.
I appreciate you sharing it with everybody else. I think you'll probably have some commissioners reaching out to you and trying to do something else too.
I'm here, and there's nothing I love more than talking about this and nerding out, as you can tell. So thank you so much for your time.
Appreciate it. Thank you. All right. Madam Clerk, next item.
Item number 48, presentation on efforts to remove broken, abandoned, or duplicate utility poles in Knox County.
Your name, sir? County of residence. You have 5 minutes. He's in his zone.
All right. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Commission. Sorry, I didn't hear what you were talking about while I was.
I'll ask your name and county of residence, and you have 5 minutes.
Larson J., Knox County. I am happy to give you a year's update for the folks who are new to commission within the last year. Last spring, presented to commission an issue that I think is something that can be solved and can be worked on and improved, but was growing exponentially, and we addressed the issue of double poles. And once you see them, you can't unsee them. And after tonight, I promise you, the more you drive around, you will see them everywhere. And so I came to commission with some ideas to reduce the number of double poles and blighted poles. As you'll see, it is a constant thing that is ever growing as we grow as a county and as facilities and utilities get upgraded. And so I came to the commission and we passed a resolution, which I'll talk about in a second, and we talked about ways to improve this. And today is the sort of year report that I promised you and some recommendations for next steps. So let's talk about double poles. They could be broken poles, as you could see. They could be abandoned poles. They could be duplicate poles from upgrades, or they could be poles simply hanging in midair and left behind. The overall issue here is that redundant, abandoned, and duplicate utility poles in its core existence is a safety hazard to our public. And the most common fatalities are fixed objects when people depart from the roadway. And Jim Snowden and I, and Engineering and Public Works, have done a lot of work on crash data. And the number one reason for fatalities is when people run off the road, and our skinny little roads with very little shoulders, it's as they hit things, and they hit inanimate or objects that don't move like poles, and it's a bad day. And then on top of that, double poles and leftover poles, frankly, are garbage on our roadside. I've always made the analogy that just because it's vertical does not mean it's not garbage. If a utility company were to upgrade the entire sewer line and then put all new sewer pipes in and left all the old sewer pipes behind and said, too bad, so sad, you all would have an issue with that in your district. I promise you would have an issue with it. So just because it's vertical does not mean it's not garbage. And so part of this is helping sort of remind folks that we've got to clean up our roadsides across Knox County. I want to talk about the jurisdiction. I'm only talking about Knox County. I'm not talking about the city of Knoxville, which has probably 4 times the amount of issue that we have in the county, but I have no jurisdiction there, and neither do you. And I'm not talking about the town of Farragut. Funny enough, town of Farragut does not have this problem because and I'll talk about this at the end of the presentation, they don't issue permits to new providers until the providers clean up their old work. And funny enough, they do. When there is a carrot and a stick, they take care of it. So when you drive around Farragut, you may find 1 or 2, but I promise you will not see them nearly as enough. So I'm only talking about the unincorporated parts of Knox County in this presentation. Just a quick reminder, you all own the right-of-way. We all own the citizens, the public right-of-way. Oops, I went too far here. I don't know why it's clicking. And that right-of-way includes lots and lots and lots of utilities and lots of stuff. I'm showing you everything that's below the surface. You can obviously see what's above with utility poles, but every right-of-way extends from property line to property line. The easements usually go from the middle of the road to the property, all the way to the property line of the homeowner. Of course, you've got water, you've got sewer, electric, gas, sanitary sewers, water mains, storm sewers. You've got a lot of stuff underneath, but you also have some stuff above, and mostly that comes in the forms of utility poles. So just a quick reminder of what we're talking about. As I said, we, the Knox County citizens, own the right-of-way. That right-of-way is actually, people are given permission to work in that right-of-way for free by a permit issued by Engineering and Public Works. And there are essentially 2 different ways that people get a chance to work in our right-of-way. Those permits are given to kind of other users. That could be a homeowners association, a construction company, things like that. But the majority of our right-of-way are given to utilities, electric, gas, sewer, water, et cetera, et cetera. The one obviously we're talking about today are utility pole owners. So these are the pole owners that operate in Knox County, bless you. And the major people who own, these are all the people that own the poles. The biggest being KUB, second biggest being LCUB, AT&T is probably third, and then TDS, Frontier, and Clinton Utilities Board are pretty small players, but these are the people who actually own the poles. There are also people, they may also provide service on the poles, but then additionally there are pole attachers, and these are people that make a deal through a mutual agreement to those pole owners to attach telecom lines mostly. So this is cable, this is fiber, this is internet, this is phone, this is other forms of data, television, transfer, et cetera. So you've got pole owners and you've got attachers, and they work together in their own agreements, separate of Engineering and Public Works, but they sort of have deals. They pay each other Some people have the poles, other people pay people to pay on the tolls, and so it goes back and forth, and that relationship is important because attachers pay the pole owners, and so sometimes when we talk about moving attachers, they may or may not want to because they're being paid to attach to all the poles and the new poles, and sometimes things cost money when you run businesses like this. All of these things tie into the telecom services sold back to the citizens. So the citizens are allowing the private sector, mostly the private sector, some public sector like KUB or LCB utilities, but they're essentially giving access for free to the right-of-ways to people that sell them, use the right-of-ways, and then sell them back products. So I just wanted to kind of outline that this is the relationship of all the people we're going to talk about today. We passed a resolution. You all passed a resolution last year. I won't read all of it, but it basically summarizes, this was the resolution if you want to look it up, and it summarizes a couple of key points that would happen over the 2024-2025 year. Engineering and Public Works will conduct quarterly meetings with the representatives of all the pole owners and the utility service providers, which we did. They identify county roads where duplicate redundant utility poles should be removed. Review the progress with the utility companies on the removal of those double poles. And then after 1 year, discuss the project and the progress made and determine the next steps to clean up the right-of-way. So that's what I'm doing here today. So that was the action items from last year. We held those quarterly meetings, and these were the project participants that came to the meetings, participated, actively engaged in solving the issue, and I would say we're good partners in the conversation. There were a whole lot more that didn't ever show up to a single meeting, even though they were invited to all of them, didn't participate. Many of them didn't even respond and basically said, you know, thanks but no thanks, or didn't even, you know, want to be in part of it. So thumbs up and thumbs down, I'll let that speak for itself. In the conversation, the one thing that's a constant between all these groups is that everybody uses what's called an engines, not E-N-G-I-N-S like in your car, but the engines system, which is the National Joint Utilities Notification System. This is a piece of software that everyone uses so they know exactly where every pole is, every line, every attacher. Anytime you go see a utility pole, it's going to have a number on it. Sometimes that's stamped, sometimes it's written, and sometimes it's, you know, metal plates. Literally every attacher has a little code. So they know every single pole, every single attachment. They know exactly what's in the right-of-way, and it's a system that everybody puts data in, but not everybody likes to share their data out of. But that's a different discussion altogether. But it's there, and it's part of something that the county has access to. So here's the report of what has happened over the last year with the major players that did participate. KUB owns a majority of the poles in Knox County. I mean, I would say 80+% are KUB poles. In the last year, they have removed 2,500 poles. They have 400, a little over 400 poles waiting to be, a little less than 400 poles waiting to be pulled, and over 2,700 poles that are ready to be pulled, but that are waiting on telecom transfers still. They do have a continual process of construction replacement transfers, so they have a team that works on this all the time, and they have significantly reduced the amount of poles just in the last year. As you can see, we started working on that soon after the 2024 line. So they make an aggressive effort and been a good partner. LCUB is probably the second largest pole owner. They have removed 395 poles since last year. They also have a continual process of construction replacement transfers, removals. They're continuing to look at that and you know, try to do what they can as identified. AT&T removed 360 poles since last year. They also have a process to continue to monitor that. And then some of our other partners, Clinton Utility Poles, they own very few poles, so it seems 14 doesn't seem like a lot, but to them 14 is probably still 10%. I mean, it's a pretty big percentage. They own a lot up in the, you know, obviously up Clinton Highway and bordering the other counties to us. MCI reported that they had 168 pole transfers completed in the last year, so that means they've moved their lines off of the other poles, and therefore they can be pulled. And then Comcast reported that they have done 888 transfers in 2024, and 1,400 in 2025. They expect to be a little over 2,100 by the end of the year. So there's, again, moving their lines off so they can be transferred. But the problem still exists, even with that good progress, and continues, and some real-life examples that I'm happy to show you are in District 8, Mr. Thompson. Millertown Pike between Harris Road and Roberts Road is a very, very long stretch, and that is a section that KUB reported to me that they are awaiting transfer from AT&T Comcast for now over a year. They have several dozen poles there that they would like to remove on that very narrow wideway, but they are just simply waiting for those transfers to happen. So that's a key stretch that if you drive on the way home, you'll be able to see. And these are pictures from that road as we go. District 7, Commissioner Lee, High School Road between Raccoon Valley and Emory Road, a growing corridor that goes on the north side of our county. KUB reported they are waiting transfers from WOW, Comcast, and Frontier now for over 500 days. And so they're not going anywhere anytime fast. These are some photos from that area that continue to see the duplication of poles and some of the transfer. So, you know, the question is why don't they transfer them faster? Well, it costs money, and it's a not revenue generating process. It costs money to do that, and while I think that there are some partners, as you've seen, that have made a consistent effort to maintain their system and to improve the process, there are others that have just simply ignored us or don't want to do it because they don't have to, because there's no reason. They get free permits and they get to operate in the right of way, and there's no incentive. There's certainly no financial incentive to make the transfers happen, and therefore the poles can't be removed and we can't clean up our right of way. So here are my recommendations to Commission, and I did this presentation this way because I really want your feedback before I go to the next step. And that tonight is, I'm going to sort of finish and then open the dialogue and talk to you about where do you want to see this go next. I've met with Engineering and Public Works. I met with the Mayor's office, and we've certainly met many, many times with all of our telecom and utility providers. But my recommendation to this Commission is, first and foremost, part of the resolution was to renew or not the resolution of meeting quarterly. I would recommend discontinuing those meetings and do not renew the resolution. I think we know the problem. I think we know the providers that are interested in supporting the efforts. I know the ones who, I think we know the ones who don't care and don't want to participate. And I think while we might check in with them, you know, having former quarterly meetings, we've done that for a year, and I think that it set the tone, but I don't know if it's necessary and going forward. But what I do want to propose is to pass a resolution by this body in the coming months to instruct the UDO team to do a couple things. First, review the right-of-way permitting process and focus on including a fee structure for all permitting. That would be utilities, HOAs, private property owners, telecoms, everything, and find an appropriate scale that works, not per pole or per feet, but maybe something that is more on the scope of what is the scope of the work, something that's tangible and manageable that wouldn't be egregious financially, but that would be something that would incentivize them to have some buy-in and would also help support the staff at EPW who would need staffing time to be able to work and improve our right-of-way access. And then in that UDO process, or that resolution instructing the UDO, essentially grant Engineering and Public Works the authority to withhold future work permits to those who don't comply with the right-of-way standards, including the removals, transfers, and double poles, other right-of-way hazards, or incomplete work. Just like a home, you know, on our home sites, if somebody leaves a home development behind, we have a bond, we can, you know, take that bond in and we can not issue them further things. I think when it comes to our right-of-way, we need to give our Engineering and Public Works team the authority to police that right-of-way. For those who are active participants and good actors and do what they say they should do and clean up after themselves, then the engineering team will gladly give them permits and keep working with them. But for those who ignore us and continue to junk up Knox County and abuse the right-of-way system, that is given to them for free, there should be a bit of a stick at the end of it that says, if you, kind of like Farragut does, if you don't clean up your garbage and you don't help us improve our right-of-way safety, then perhaps we're not going to allow you to do more work and cause more trash. I promise that will get their attention very quickly, and perhaps those behaviors will be changed. So that's the end of my presentation. That's the recommendation. I'm kind of keeping it very simple, but I want some feedback from you all and answer any questions before I proceed with further action.
Thank you, Commissioner Jay. Commissioner Lee?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner Jay, how many would you have any idea how many? Because I know there's a lot in my district probably that, and they're not cooperating. Would you have any idea how many that is?
No, we can look through the data. We sort of have to go into everybody's system and start digging. Those who gave us information like KUB and Comcast and AT&T and all the good partners, we kind of know, but for all the other ones, they just provided, they didn't show up and they didn't provide us information. So without us actually going and sort of doing a survey ourselves. But I would argue to say in your district, there's easily over 100 that, without even blinking.
Are you, is the county have the ability to remove those and based upon what you're recommending?
Not right now.
The county would
So
move them and...
the pole owner has to remove them. It's their property. And one of the conflict points is the attachers that, even though they can, the pole owners could move their lines, but they don't want to. They don't want the liability. They don't want to have somebody break a line and then have to fix it. Their agreements actually let them move the other guy out of the way, but they don't want to, and they don't have, they're paying them money, so they kind of don't want to beat up their customers at the same time, so they just don't. In rare circumstances, when there's like an emergency or some huge issue from like an a windstorm or a car wreck or something, they might move them on an emergency basis, but they basically can't touch each other's property, and we can't touch any of them because it's not our stuff.
So what would be the solution?
Well, the solution would be, we don't issue, let's just take WOW, for instance. WOW is providing telecom, and as we grow in the county, they're going to want to expand more. But we know that by looking at the engine system, they have 500 poles waiting on them to move. Well, we would not, if we gave this authority to the engineering department, they would not issue them permits to expand into new areas before they cleaned up the old areas. And so we would essentially, by creating a fee structure and a permit structure that wasn't just free and easy, we would be able to control that behavior better and force them to clean up their garbage before they started new projects.
Thank you, that's all.
Thank you. Commissioner Fox?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just curious, are the poles, because of their coating and so forth, are they more expensive to dispose of than just a regular piece of, big wooden pole?
No, it's just time and labor. The major expense in doing all of this from the attachers is they have to send a truck out and a crew out to fix it, and that's costs money, and it doesn't bring any money in. And then removing the pole, the same thing, it's just time and labor, but they can't move the pole until everybody's off the pole. And so it's just sort of like, they're all just kind of stuck, and until somebody forces the issue, it's not going to get done. But they're not any, I mean, they dispose of them all the time, they reuse them, they actually give them, a lot of them to farmers in our more rural areas to use for all kinds of things. So there's plenty of places to use them and put them, it's not the issue.
Okay.
In your district, I'm sorry, in your district, a lot of the upgrades come from major corridors where they're putting up new steel lines or metal posts, and then they're just not moving the other stuff, so the old wooden one sits next to it.
Okay. Because KUB, as we discussed with Knox Chapman, some utilities are considered municipalities, but when we had the discussion, I think you mentioned that there is some ability by way of state law for Knox County to issue ordinances with respect to this, when it comes to this particular issue. So would there be a way to give, a punitive ordinance if they didn't comply, you know, I mean, we have the power to apply punitive fines and so forth. Would that be a possible remedy?
Maybe. I do think there is some room for that. Mr. Moyers and the law department helped. When I first started this project, we actually started, with a big stick of fining per pole, per day, fines for people that didn't remove them. And we didn't go that route, but we did have statutory authority. I think we have authority over our right-of-way and who uses it and how they use it. And I think the legal structure comes from it's the public's land, and we have a right to manage that as a government. Where it goes from there, I think the law department would have to sort of find that fine tune between. We want cooperative partners that work with us to solve the problem more than we want punitive, damages. But I know that sometimes you can't help it. But a lot of these companies are out of state, and they have a very small footprint, and they just don't want to respond or don't need to respond.
It says some of them may need a stick rather than a carrot, so to speak.
Perhaps, but I think I'll leave that to the law department and your guidance as to where you want me to take this.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Durrett?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would be remiss if I didn't say, because District 8 and District 7 were both used as examples, and Comcast was listed as one of the attachers that that KUB and or the pole owners are waiting for them to move. I have learned a lot in my 2 years as the government affairs person for Comcast. Each individual telecommunication company that is an attacher that is not necessarily a pole owner, which is Comcast in this situation, has a pole attachment agreement between the pole owner and the telecommunication. And in that agreement, and I was just pulling up one that I am currently negotiating with a small town in Georgia. These are like 30, 35, 40 pages long with very specific details, stipulations, costs, etc., timeframes to do this. But when you think of it, so that's just for one company on a pole. And how many are included in your list?
A dozen.
Right, I was going to say 12 to 15. And with maybe 5 or 6 of them coming to the table, and also in this pole attachment agreement, there with the pole owner is a system of who removes and at what time. And it depends on your placement on the pole. And so whoever is at the top of the pole will go last. You have to go from the bottom up. And so Comcast is typically that top line. And so I was in discussions with our Betterments guy this morning when I was getting Commissioner Jay the numbers that we have transferred. And those, by the way, and I didn't specify this, were specifically double pole only. That wasn't just in normal business. And so we are sitting there waiting. We have a large number of tickets that have been entered in the engines where we are waiting for the telecoms that are below us to move. And so we cannot do a thing until we are next to go. And so once we are flagged in engines as next to go, we send our team out, which we do have a team now that started, I believe, in 2022, 2023, and now is main focus is this specifically. And so there are a lot of nuances to this. I caution that discussion of the big stick because it was brought up last year. I was looking for the state statute on right-of-way usage and with telecoms, and I can't find it. I was trying to do it in the past 2 minutes, so I can't find it right this second. But it's agreements with a private company, and so we have these set out. These penalties. There are penalties in these pole attachment agreements if we don't comply in whatever their time frame is, 45, 60 days. There are penalties attached to that within each individual pole attach agreement with each individual carrier and with each individual pole owner. It is a logistical nightmare, I'm sure, especially for the pole owners. And so these things are or how it is for individual telecoms. And so when we talked at, say, in AT&T and Comcast in District 8 on Millertown Pike, and WOW and Frontier along with Comcast in District 7, that's because we're waiting, you know, and so when you have these players, and that may need to be more of the focus, is how do we get these players that are not responding, these attachers who are not responding, how do we get them back to the table to address these issues? And I'm not saying that Commissioner Jay was throwing anybody else under the bus or anything, but that is a problem we face every day, all day long, is dealing with other attachers. And so that's something too I would propose we think about.
No, I would agree with that. A lot of times it's who's next and who's in the way. And I think that there's only a few ways that we can force them to get out of the way. So,
And I agree that we need to work on something, but as far as the county issuing a penalty for not moving within a certain amount of time, that's a hard route to go down because of those who's next. If WOW is next and then Frontier and then Comcast, do Frontier and Comcast have to pay that penalty as well because they are waiting and in fact not moving off? So I mean, that's the issues we faced last year when we were talking about this.
I was just asking Mr. Snowden, I was just verifying that in engines, we can, engineering can tell who's next. So we can, I think that's a key indicator as we look at a stretch. We would probably look at corridors like the ones I pointed out, and engineering would most likely say, okay, there's 37 double poles and it looks like TDS is next. So TDS, you're not going to get any new permits until you clean up this corridor, and then we can push the envelope. But yeah.
Thank you. Commissioner Russell?
Yes, and you've kind of somewhat answered the question that I actually had. But and first of all, I want to thank you for this because as someone who has had a family member who has hit a telephone pole, I really appreciate this and commend you on your work on this. Very good job. Thank you very much.
I'm sorry for your loss. It's an all too common thing and across the country when it comes to people that go off the roadside.
Yeah, in this case, this family member did not decease, but we have had someone who hit a pole. So just for clarification, when you're talking about the permitting, do the like the people who are subcontracting onto the poles, the attachers, do they also have to get these permits? Would you be able to stop from issuing those permits? Because if all you're doing is stopping KUB from getting a permit.
Everybody that works in the right-of-way has to have a permit from the Engineering and Public Works Department, no matter what they're doing, no matter what they're attaching to, what they're bearing. Every single person that works in our public right-of-way has to have a permit from the Engineering Department.
Okay.
So, yeah, what they do in there is in the scope of work, but they all have to come to engineering before they work in the public's land.
Okay, perfect. I just wanted to make sure that we were actually addressing the people who were causing the problem and not, like she was saying, someone who's trying to do their best, but they're having to wait in line behind someone else. Thank you.
All right, so I'm glad that Commissioner Durrett brought up the, as the commissioner who dealt with the tornado 2 years ago, I learned a lot about all of that. And I have mostly LCUB in my district, and I work really close with them and really well with them. But we do have two telecom companies that has been a disaster to do that. And I know that we can, so if a commissioner does have an emergency situation, you can reach out to Jim, and he can reach out. He's got a great relationship with LCUB and KUB, and or once you get to know your GM of your your companies, then for safety issues or emergency, they can do that. Because we really, the ones that are good partners with us, you don't want to punish them because they're doing the work. You want to punish the ones that aren't doing that. So I think opening that discussion up and then looking at law, with the law department on how to do that, because we do have those.
Yeah, and I might invite Mr. Snowden to come up and just talk about their ability to manage partners in the right of way. I think that you're on the right track of those who do good work and are trusted partners. They, I would say, go out of their way to make it as easy as possible to do business here, to provide power, to provide utilities, and keep our economy moving. But they have had more than a few instances where entire infrastructure projects have been held up by one company that won't move, and the team has the ability. So I might just invite Mr. Snowden up here for just 1 minute to kind of talk about their role as a right-of-way provider, and then I'll wrap up and we'll move on. Right-of-way manager.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Jay. Yeah, and to kind of tag into what Commissioner Jay is saying is obviously my department, we do issue permits for all work in the right of way. And the goal of that is to make sure that end work is done safely. I mean, if somebody's out there having to maybe the power pole's up and, WOW's having to go out there and attach a line, well, to attach that line, they're probably going to sit that bucket truck in the middle of the road or in the lane. They're going to have to close the lane. We want to make sure they have proper traffic control and things like that so that the public at large as goes through that work zone is done so safely. Obviously, I have one person that does this, and this is about probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 30% of his time. So we do have to rely on, the public to kind of let us know when things are occurring, because we do permit them. And then at that point, we kind of have to make the assumption that work is done per that plan, because we don't have the staff to go out there and actually, police it on a day-to-day basis. But I will say, to Commissioner Jay's point, our big utilities, LCUB, AT&T, KUB, Comcast, they're good partners. They work with us. It's oftentimes a lot of these, out-of-state type firms that do hold us up on double poles, as well as just road projects. I mean, we get a road project and the traffic will be going and you'll see that one pole out there with that one line on it, and that one line is holding up essentially the moving traffic over to that section of the roadway. So there is some delays associated with that, but my department does, obviously the best we can to try to prevent those things. We appreciate your all's time and attention.
Mr. Snowden, on the permits, when you do those permits, just like when we do for developments and that stuff, when we hold the bond, I've gotten very familiar with the bonds on the ponds. Is that something that you can do when you do the permit? Could you hold a bond on when you permit in the right-of-way?
That, I would be interested to see what the law director says. We have not. Now, we do hold bonds for the removal of a cell tower or something that is, going to be there for a long time. But in regard to utility bonds, we have not pursued that. I'd want to look at that and think about that a little more.
I didn't know if that was something that was even possible. So.
Yeah, we've talked about it, and I think it's something that we could look at and explore if you guys want us to do. But certainly we don't. I don't know the specifics now, but we can look at it.
Commissioner Hill.
Thank you. For Director Moyers, do you know, or if you don't, would you please research the Commission's ability through ordinance to pass something that would allow us to give somebody, 60 days or whatever it looked like to move your line, or fines would be imposed? Sure. And again, I'm talking about these outliers that typically just will not cooperate.
Well, to refer to something that Commissioner Fox pointed out earlier, these are telecoms. They're not municipal utilities of the sort that we talked about with regard to fluoride. They're not treated the same. But we do have some rights in the right-of-way for them as information carriers to use the right-of-ways. And there's also pretty extensive federal regulation we have to look at as well. But I feel fairly confident there's some things that we can do in this area to encourage or require compliance with what we'd like to see happen with these poles. So.
appreciated.
Sure. We'll work with Commissioner Jay and try to see what we can do.
Thank you. And Commissioner Russell?
I totally agree about having penalties, but we do want to make sure that we are only penalizing the one who's next in line and not someone who is held up, not on purpose. You know, it's not their fault. They're waiting on someone else. So we need to make sure that we're following who is holding the process up, not penalizing everyone.
So to wrap this up and move on with the agenda, without objection, I think I'll head this direction. As one, I'll send you all this presentation so you can look at it for yourself in retrospect, and then just kind of put my recommendations up on the forum. I guess I'll wait for a little while to see if anybody has any recommendations or things or objections, and if there aren't, I would pursue, or if there's support for it, I'll pursue additional work with the law department and maybe in a month or two bring back something that has more comprehensive and has the ability to continue to address the problems and continue to work with the partners that want to help clean up Knox County, make it safer. So
Thank you, Commissioner
for your
Jay,
time
for
and
the
support.
presentation.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, now we are going to invite up the Metro Coalition to speak to us. Good evening.
Good evening.
Give your name, sir.
Sure, Webster Bailey, Metro Drug Coalition, 530 West Fifth Avenue, Knoxville.
All right, thank you. Well, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate y'all having me. Thank you, Commissioner Lee, for inviting me to give this presentation. Commissioner Lee and I had a meeting a few weeks ago, and I think it's safe to say there were so many things that we're doing now that you weren't aware of. You said, you've got to come and talk to Commission about this. And it's been a few years since Metro Drug Coalition has been here, so glad to be back. Our organization has changed quite a bit over the last, I'll say, 4 years. I am fairly new with the organization in terms of being an employee. I was a board member for a couple of terms, about 10 years worth of board membership while I was working in at Cornerstone of Recovery. So I'm a licensed clinician. I'm a service provider for addiction issues and substance abuse. And I did a lot of work with Karen Pershing and Metro Drug Coalition, actually going back to when it was called the Metropolitan Drug Commission, which we still kind of get, you know, it sounds so very governmental, and we're not governmental, so that's why we rebranded a number of years ago. But looking forward to just the next few minutes kind of updating you on what we're doing and how things have changed for Metro Drug Coalition and what that means for Knox County. So next slide, please. So MDC has been in existence for approximately 39 years. We were sort of a joint venture, is what I'll say, between the city and the county back in the 80s when the community was looking for solutions for the crack cocaine epidemic that had hit Knoxville and Knox County. And the city and county came together and founded this organization, Metropolitan Drug Commission, who really was tasked with doing drug prevention work within our schools and with our youth. And so most of the 39 years of our existence has really been focused around substance use prevention initiatives. So going into classrooms, going into after-school groups, going into different agencies and organizations that serve youth in our community, and working with those youth on building resiliency skills, making good decisions, how to not take that first drug, how to wait and just be a kid for a while before you start doing those things. And that's ultimately, for really 35 of our 39 years of existence, that's what MDC did. There was a lot of opportunity in our community with the onset of the opioid epidemic and just drug abuse in general rising the way that it has, that our board of directors and leadership at the time said we really need to be looking at doing some things in our community that make a bigger impact on sort of the recovery realm and on the harm reduction realm. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the 3 areas that we serve and kind of explain that as we go through. So next slide, please. So the one thing I didn't put up here that I'll mention now or I'll forget to later is we do a lot of education and advocacy with lawmakers in Nashville, in D.C., statewide, locally as well. So if you have questions about things as it relates to alcohol, drug abuse, et cetera, please give me a call or shoot me an email. I'll be happy to help you any way that I can. So primary prevention is where it starts. So the way that I think of this is, I think of this like a river, like a raging river of substance abuse. And if you can imagine, so I spent most of my career way downstream, kind of in a treatment setting where the way I visualize it is pulling people out of this raging river of addiction where they're drowning. And so we're pulling them up on the shore and we're dusting them off and we're trying to help them get well. And I did that for a whole bunch of years. And then at some point, somebody says, hey, where are these people getting in the river? Why are there so many more than there used to be? Somebody go upstream and put up signs and tell them not to jump in the water because it's dangerous and all those things. And so that's kind of how I see this. So way upstream is primary prevention. So that's the line of our organization where we're working. It's primarily with youth, but it's also other parts of the community. But where we're doing presentations for kids in classrooms, at the Boys and Girls Club, at Emerald Youth, so on and so forth, with sports teams, Knox Youth Sports, et cetera, where we're trying to educate coaches, teachers, and students on how to work with our youth and helping them make good decisions. It's not what we grew up with, where it was like the DARE program, those kind of things. Those things can be effective in their own way, but this is a different approach, and it's more about emotional health, spiritual health, financial health, academic health, et cetera, et cetera. So it's about building healthy lifestyles is kind of where we tend to focus a lot of our work there. Moving on to harm reduction, that is what we describe when we work with a lot of people who choose to continue to use drugs and alcohol in an unhealthy way. So if folks are going to choose to continue to use, we want to keep them alive as long as we can in hopes that one day they will decide to do something different. And so these are the programs where we go into parts of the community and we work with folks who we know are using. So we might do some co-op work with treatment programs. We go into our homeless encampments and we do all kinds of outreach there. There's a couple of things that we do every week where we go in. So we're located right in the middle, in the heart of the Mission District is where our facility is. And so like it or not, we're dealing with a homeless population much more than we probably ever meant to, but we're just right there in the neighborhood. And so it makes sense. We have literally saved dozens of lives on our property since we've been there in the last couple of years. One just last week. Where folks overdose in the alley right behind our building or in our parking lot or right across the street, and we have visibility of that and we take action. In fact, there was one today laid on the lawn right in front of VMC. Law enforcement was there, and I was driving by and I pulled over because I got overdose reversal medications like coming out of my pockets, and I run up, I'm like, hey, do we need some? And she's like, I don't know. So harm reduction work, we do a lot of education for first responders. A lot of folks who, whether they're firemen, in law enforcement, even first responders, when they went through training and when they kind of got into the line of work that they're in, they weren't dealing with the same things that we're dealing with now, and they weren't trained on how to deal with drug addiction. Every single call, almost, it seems like to them, they get really worn out. So we provide a lot of education and support to those individuals so that they are equipped and ready to deal with situations as they arise. And so we've got employees who support them, teach them, train them, and then come in. If there's an overdose situation, they will literally call us and we will send somebody to the scene to work with that individual and that family to try to help them make decisions to seek care because they don't actually have to at that point. So harm reduction work's really impactful. So it's about building relationships so that when folks do choose to do something different, they know who to call and then know who they can trust. And that's been extremely successul for us. And then the next piece I would talk about is recovery support. So recovery support, so as a man in long-term recovery, I think back to when I went through my life-changing experience of not drinking and doing drugs anymore. And I kind of had to reinvent myself. It was a big part of who I was and my identity and what I did for enjoyment, so on and so forth. And I think what I've noticed is that is true for most people who enter this new way of life. And so what we're doing at the Gateway Recovery Community Center is we've created it's an old school community center model where it's just a community of people who used to live a way that we don't live anymore, and we got to figure out how to help the new guy not do what he used to do, and that can be really challenging and overwhelming. Just to disclose a little, I mean, particularly in the first several months of my own recovery, I knew what to do and I felt safe. And when I say safe, I just mean in terms of I'm not going to do anything that I don't want to do in terms of drinking or using a few hours a day when I was around other people. But what about the other 20 hours a day where I don't have people around me helping me with accountability and encouragement? So if you come by the Gateway, which invitation open for anybody, anytime, please come by. You'll find a vibrant community of people who are living a new way of life, and they're really happy about it, and they're helping each other. So much so that Tuesday afternoons tends to be our most popular time. And believe it or not, we've got Knox County probation officers who meet their folks at our place because it flips the model on its head of come down here to my office and see me in this real transactional scenario. So if you come by tomorrow afternoon, you're liable to find a probation officer shooting a game of pool, having a cup of coffee with a man or woman that they're overseeing. So pretty cool community level model of helping people find recovery and figure out how to do that. So anyway, next slide, please. Again, just more detail. This presentation was sent in and can be shared with you. I've kind of talked about what we're doing, but one thing I haven't mentioned is our ACEs work. So adverse childhood experiences is, in trauma. Trauma is a huge piece as far as a driver of behavior. And so we're doing a lot of education with providers and practitioners and OBGYN offices to help them work with their patients, not pass trauma on to the children. And then we're doing some things with other organizations like Susanna's House where we provide clinical support for them to help them work with their clients on ACEs issues and trauma. So pretty exciting work there. Again, a lot of youth work. We actually go into the detention center, the juvenile detention center, and work with those individuals at hopefully what is a transformational moment for them to begin to build a relationship with someone that they can relate with, who's got maybe a similar life experience and who can say, hey, I've been where you are, and here's how things worked out for me. It's just a little bit of a different approach, more of a peer type of an approach, and it tends to have a pretty good uptake with those individuals. So next slide. Sort of talked about this already as well, but just more detail as far as going into high-risk communities to provide education and supplies. So we are probably the largest supplier of naloxone in Knox County. I made a note here because it was an impressive number. Last fiscal year, we distributed over 19,000 doses of naloxone in our community. And we have over 420, I think it was 422 documented life saves last year alone. That's 422 people who overdosed and did not die because of the work that we're doing. And we're really, really proud of that. The other thing that those moments create is an opportunity to change. And so those 422 individuals have relationships and conversations with people who are in recovery and who've been there and who can say, hey, I've been there too. Let's talk about how this can actually work for you, how we can help you make a change. And so it's not this one-off thing. It's we build relationship so that we can help them through difficult times in their life. So really grateful for that. The other thing that I was just making note, so when we have really cold spells and we open up warming centers in our community, there's a lot of overdoses happening in warming centers. People don't hear about those things, but we go to all of those warming centers on those snow days, on those blizzard days, and we teach and train all the staff members at those churches and at the Salvation Army and everywhere else, and we supply them with overdose reversal medications, and they use them. So that's been a pretty, that was one of our staff members who, we're watching all the snow come in, and she was like, but what about the warming centers? I've got to get there. I've got to take them all this naloxone. And she got out and braved the roads and did it, and so stuff that I didn't even think about. Next slide, please. From a recovery support standpoint, so one of the things that we do is we offer treatment referrals. And so a lot of times, as I tell people with the commercial health insurance, if you needed treatment, you can be in treatment in 5 minutes. There are beds available. There's all kinds of admissions people and marketing reps who want you to come to their center, and I can have you there in 5 minutes. But if you don't have money or you don't have insurance, and even TennCare to a certain extent, it's much better now than it used to be, finding your way, navigating to a treatment center with no or limited benefits can be a real big challenge. And in years past, we were seeing 4-month waiting lists, 6 months waiting lists, those kind of things. And if you know anything about addiction and seeking help, it's got to be pretty instantaneous, pretty close to that, because if I want help today and you're like, hey, I'm going to put you on the list and we'll give you a call in about 4 months, 4 months from now, I'm not interested anymore because things have changed. So we have been able to reduce that to about 24 to 48 hours. We're having people door to door from our building or on the phone with us. So we take those referral calls over the phone, or people just show up at the gateway and say, hey, I heard you could help me here. And we'll have them in treatment sometimes same day. I will say that McNabb opening some more beds here recently has been a big help locally. There for a long time, we were having to transport people to Middle Tennessee to grant beds in other parts of the state because there was not capacity here, but that is improving. Last year, we placed, and when I say placed, I don't just mean give them a number and tell them who to call. We warm handoffed 520 people into treatment programs in this state from our area. So that's 520 people who wanted to do something different, and we connected them with a place that would help them do it. And then we don't drop the ball there. The beauty is we now have the Gateway Recovery Community Center, so we get to say, hey, when you come home or when you come back to Knoxville, come here first. We want to help you figure out what next steps look like. So do you need help finding employment? Do you need help finding a place to live that's going to be safe and stable and affordable? Speaking of housing, we provided, last year, we put 229 people in recovery housing through our fund. And so we have a recovery housing fund that will pay for the first 2 weeks' rent for somebody to get moved into an approved recovery residence. These are people and organizations that we know and trust and work with. We will pay their first 2 weeks to get them in the door and give them hopefully enough time. It's not enough time, but it's more time than they would get anywhere else to get a job and to begin to pay their own way, those kind of things. And so pretty remarkable to put 229 people in housing that wouldn't have otherwise been able to. We also tap into our faith communities in East Tennessee. As you know, there's a church or faith organization almost on every block, or multiple ones on every block. Last year, we presented to 254 congregations in our community on ways that those faith communities or churches can better serve and better support people in recovery, because churches often want to do things to help individuals, but they don't know what to do or don't want to be taken advantage of, or should I pay their light bill because, we don't want to contribute to the problem. And so we help them understand that process and walk through that a little bit more clearly with confidence. And we also offer a recovery certification for congregations, and we certified 28 congregations in our community last year alone. So, and that's built on top of years and years of doing that. Next slide, please. So we also do a lot of awareness events and social events where we're really just trying to inspire people and instill some hope and show people that recovery is possible, because so often when you're caught in the grip of this progressive illness of addiction, it often feels like there's no way out. And so we try to shout from the rooftops that there is absolutely a way out, and we can show you where it is. Come join us. And so we do that. From a professional development standpoint, one of the weaknesses that we noticed in our community is that when organizations, recovery residences, for example, or sometimes the term halfway house is used, the individuals that manage and operate those are often, from a day-to-day management standpoint, the truth is it's probably the guy who's been sober the longest, like in the house. So maybe 30 minutes longer than the next guy in some cases. I mean, it is, there's some, oftentimes people with 2 or 3 months in recovery who are now managing a house full of peers, and they don't have the skills and tools to do that. And so we started a House Manager Academy where we're bringing these individuals in and giving them 10 weeks of training. And it's just kind of the basic level of training that anyone who's entering the workforce in the recovery sphere would get. And so it's kind of a crash course on the things that you need to know and think about working in this field. And that has improved outcomes in the recovery houses. It's also improved the retention of those individuals because they don't get as burned out, and so on and so forth. So that's pretty exciting. The next item up there is provider education. It was kind of built upon the House Managers Academy that we started. We just got a Trinity Foundation grant, a Phase 1 grant, where we're basically proving the concept, but I feel good that we're going to hopefully, I'm going to speak it into existence. We're going to get Phase 2 because we're doing great work in Phase 1. One of the things that a lot of people aren't aware of is that the nature of the business of addiction treatment has really changed over the last 10 years, which is one reason I no longer work in it. So what treatment centers are typically started by families or individuals who've had that life experience, and they want to do something to help somebody else. Well, what's happened since the opioid epidemic hit, it's been almost 20 years now since that started, is venture capital groups and investment firms saw dollar signs. And so a lot of these mom and pops or started by family organizations, some of them grew to be quite large even, but they get bought up and gobbled up by venture capital groups and investment companies, and that changes the nature of the work that goes on in those places. Just for instance, as executive director at Cornerstone of Recovery, which was the largest treatment provider in the state of Tennessee, we were acquired by a company, and the first thing they wanted me to do was cut 30% of the clinical staff. And I said, no, we're not doing it. And so about a year later, they showed me the door, as you might imagine, because there was a series of those, we want you to do this, and I said no. So anyway, but one of the things that's gone away in those organizations is training. So one of the greatest assets that any of us have in our businesses is the people, particularly in recovery-related environments. You take an impassioned person with life experience, and you kind of take all those skills and tools and knowledge, and if you point them in the right direction, they're pretty unstoppable people. But you have to provide them the skills, the tools, and the knowledge, and all these treatment centers have stopped doing that because it's an expense. It's not a revenue-producing function. So I appreciated your comments about that earlier. So we have started an education co-op, if you will, to provide educational information. So we've met with all the clinical directors for all the local treatment centers and said, look, we know y'all can't talk about this openly because you're owned by a corporate entity, but we're clinicians, we understand, what do your people need help learning how to do? And so we have walls full of, they need training on this and on this and on this. And so we're developing training for a lot of different things that will help improve the care across behavioral health organizations in our community, and that's our goal. So pretty excited about that. Next slide. I mentioned the Gateway Recovery Community Center. So we opened in 2022 with Phase 1, which is essentially half of the building, and then the other half opened about a year later. We're working on Phase 3, which is a $500,000 expansion to the back of our building that's currently underway. And we have provided, just since opening, just to give you a sense of what we're doing over there, we're busy. We've provided 100, as of this morning, at 8 a.m. when I pulled the record, we've provided 116,560 services to people who live in our community. That's a huge number in a short amount of time. So I'll end kind of, there's a little bit of a slide so you can just flip through and look. It shows pictures of different parts of the building, but I would love to invite any or all of you over to tour our place and see what we're doing firsthand. Because it's pretty magical. Would you, next slide? So patio, keep going. You can just kind of go through these fairly quickly. Let me talk about this one before you go to the next one, please. So we have a coffee shop on site, and it's our little dip into workforce development. So the folks who serve coffee, and we don't call them baristas, we call them sobaristas. And so they get a little sobarista shirt, and they serve coffee and they learn job skills so that they can leave us and go out and get a job somewhere else. So if you haven't worked, so the lady in the upper left picture, her name's Christy. She hadn't worked in 9 years. And so for her to get a job is pretty impossible without a work history for the last 9 years. And so we give her a job and she's able to get housing, she's able to get another job, so on and so forth. So people in early recovery work in our coffee shop and serve others. So next slide, please. This is a private room that is used for meetings. You can reserve it. If y'all need to have a mini county commission meeting, come over and use this space. I promise you it smells like leather. It's great. Had a wonderful donor who contributed. She said, I want to create a room that is a soft place to land for people who've had a really hard day. And she did it. So next slide. We have a rec center with a full, nice fitness equipment, pool tables, foosball tables, dart boards, arcade games, trying to create a space where people who are trying to figure out how they're not going to drink and use drugs anymore can come and hang out and build new relationships and friendships. Next slide. Training room. This photo was taken just at when we were meeting with all those clinicians from the local treatment centers just a couple of weeks ago. Next slide. So we teach art classes. We have our own little version of Bob Ross. We call him Little Bobby Ross, and he teaches art classes, and it's a wonderful thing. We've got hundreds of pieces of art that could be sold that maybe one day we will. Next slide. We do the same with music and other creative arts. So we're doing some pretty cool stuff, and Commissioner Lee, thanks for inviting me here to tell you all about it. Glad to have any questions. I'll do my best to answer.
Thank you so much, and thank you for coming here and giving us some wonderful information, and for Commissioner Lee for inviting you. Commissioner Lee?
Thank you, Mr. Bailey, for coming. I was so excited when I went over there. I do criminal defense, and probably 9 out of 10 of my clients have a drug addiction. And it's very discouraging because there's so few resources. And a lot of times they come through the system and they'll get their case resolved, whether they go to prison and maybe get a little bit of treatment, but where do they go from there? And a lot of them never bounce back, get support, get a job, get a housing. And when I went over there, the lady you saw at the coffee shop was one of my former clients. And she was thriving. And I saw her and I wanted to cry because I don't see that. And there's something good. This is really good, and it's such a blessing. We hear so much problems, but this is something good in Knox County. They are making a difference, and they have a great work over there. They're right down there, right next to the mission, and people are coming and going, and they're excited, they're smiling, and I think I'm just so proud of your work. And I hope everybody will go over there and tour it. It's such a great thing, and it was so exciting to see it hands-on and see the lady was like, Miss Lee, I'm off drugs. And I will tell you this year, and I won't even tell you last year, 4 of my clients OD'd from fentanyl. And I come in one day and I got the message they OD'd. But so we don't hardly get any praise reports or any great reports. And this was just a phenomenal work that they're doing over there. And I hope everybody will go see it. But thank you so much for your work.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Durrett?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to reiterate what Commissioner Lee said. We truly appreciate what you're doing for the community. Question about the coffee shop.
Yeah.
Can anyone come in?
Yes.
Because I always am looking for new coffee places.
If it is not your favorite coffee shop, I'll buy.
Okay.
How's
well,
that?
I will take you up on that offer.
Please set meetings with your folks in it's a lovely environment, and it is more eventful and exciting than any Starbucks in town, I promise you.
You read my mind. That's exactly where I was going with it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and we have we have a special bean that's, I'm not a coffee, I like cheap Maxwell House, like that's me. So I have my own private stash of that. But that, Raising a Voice is another nonprofit locally. They roast our beans for us and that sort of a thing. So, yeah.
All right, thank you so much.
Awesome. Commissioner Brawls.
Thank you for all you guys do. You guys are in the best district too. I just noticed that. It's not yours, not that section. Okay, I don't want to talk about this anymore, but
We'll take you both.
In all seriousness, I want to say thank you, but I think commissioners really need to understand this is the important work that we do when we support organizations. I know there is this sentiment floating around that we should never fund anybody and we should never help anybody, but people need a helping hand. You needed a helping hand, even if you were okay, but you were sliding down this slide that could have ended in a bad place. Your clients needed help. You had 4 that passed last year. Here's 2. Here's one that has not been thrown away, that's not been said, hey, you're a druggie and you don't count. But one person who, because of an organization like this that we've supported and other organizations have supported and other nonprofits have joined hands, has raised themselves up and, become a productive member of society. So I'm proud to see it. I love it. I'll be coming over for the coffee. I'm a coffee snob. If I don't like it, I will let you know.
I bet. No, I think you will. I think you'll like it. And the smiles that accompany it too.
Perfect.
Thank you all.
Commissioner Durrett.
I have to make one correction. My district is across the street.
Does it change there at Broadway? I got you. Yeah.
Glad we
Yeah,
straightened that
yeah.
out. Thank you again
Yeah.
for coming. Thank you for being patient with us. We've had a lot of presentations today, and
That's
we
okay.
appreciate it, but we certainly appreciate the awesome news. And I don't drink coffee, but I'm still going to come over.
Please
So,
do. Yeah.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank you
y'all.
so much.
Appreciate you having me.
Commissioners, I hate to do this. We're going to have to take a 10-minute break, so we will be back here at 7:25. All right, we are back in session. Madam Clerk, if you will read the next item, please.
We don't have any public forum agenda items, right?
No, we don't.
Okay, so we're on approval of minutes of the previous meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Wait, is that Rawls and Durrett?
Jay.
Jay and Durrett? All right, we've got a motion, we're on approval of minutes. We've got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Jay, second by Commissioner Durrett. These are for, I thought these were for.
Okay.
These are open topics. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Next item, please.
Drives and roads, consideration of the acceptance of new county roads. A is Inspiration Road. B is Magnificent Lane. They're both located in Amber Vista Subdivision, District 6. C is Nighttime Drive. D, Gray Flannel Lane. They're located in Dorchester Subdivision, District 6. E, Sunscape Lane. F is Bronze Lane, and they're located in Hunters Glen, District 4.
Thank you. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Jay, second by Commissioner Hill. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it.
Line item transfers, total amount of $8,017,023.58.
Motion to approve.
I got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Jay, second by Commissioner Durrett. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Next item.
budget amendments, total amount of $10,452,335.92.
Motion to approve.
Got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Jay, second by Commissioner Hill. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Next item, please.
220 notary public applications.
Motion to approve?
Got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Durrett, second by Commissioner Frazier. Any discussion? Commissioner Jackson?
Just to remind everybody, I'll be abstaining.
Commissioner Jackson will be abstaining. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Next item, please.
Spread of record, the Knox County Mayor's order appointing Leanne Foster to the Lenore City Utilities Board of Directors. Spread of record, Juvenile Court Judge Tim Irvin's appointment of Rhonda Lee to the Juvenile Service Center Board of Directors for a term expiring August 31st, 2026. Resolution R-25-7-111 is accepting the resignation of Christopher Manning on the Knox County Sheriff's Office Employees Merit System Board of Directors and appointing an individual to serve in the unfulfilled term of Mr. Manning on the board. Term expires September 30th, 2025.
Do I have a motion?
Motion, I move.
Do I have a second? Oh, I don't have anybody.
Yeah. Who are you making a motion
I
for?
was on a roll. All right, we have two, for the merit board, we have Miss Brennan and Mr., remind me,
Yes.
Dylan Shelton. I'm so sorry. I had the S and I couldn't remember the last name.
My motion is to approve J.B. Brennan to serve the unfulfilled term.
Point of order, Madam Chair. Don't we have to go through a nomination process
We
between
do.
the two?
Okay.
All right,
All
so
right.
we have the two nominees. So we will start District 1.
I nominate Ms. Brennan.
So just state the name of the person that you're voting for.
Oh, Ms. Brennan.
Okay? Okay.
But, oh,
Madam Chair, point of order, we got to go through the nomination process first, and then we do the voting, right?
Well, we've just got two,
Okay. Would-
so,
Motion to cease nominations and vote on the two orders as the,
Okay.
we still have to go through the steps.
okay. Do
per
I
our
have a
rules.
second on that? Yes.
I am noticing that this term expires in September. I mean, basically, whoever we nominate will only be serving for 1 month. I'm just throwing it out there. Is there any wisdom in deferring this until the
You certainly can. Yeah.
until the September 2025, when a new term will start?
Yep.
Again, I'm
Can.
just asking if that's anything that the board would be interested in entertaining.
Commissioner Frazier.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To Commissioner Hill's point, I was also going to bring that just up for discussion and information from the body. This is to complete an unfulfilled term that would end at the end of September. There is not another Merit Board Council meeting until October. There's currently no business to be heard. There is a quorum, so if an item were to be heard by the Merit Board, they do have a quorum and conduct business, so this would not hinder. And I tend to agree with Commissioner Hill. I would like to wait until the term begins and not put someone in for just a couple of months.
Commissioner Rawls.
thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Frazier actually covered several of the questions that I was going to ask about a quorum. Would this prevent them from being able to conduct business? But I'll ask this, Mr. Moyers, can we as a body postpone this? Do we have the ability to postpone this?
Yes.
Until another month?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure we can. Even if, under certain circumstances, even if the term was expiring and there was somebody in the seat, you could hold them over as a member until you got the situation filled. So, yeah, you can do that.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Hill, you're done, correct?
I am, thank you.
Commissioner Thompson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Okay, so basically, we're postponing the vote so that they are in the beginning of the next term, correct? Will there be another nomination process for that next term? So we'll have more potential more applications then, in addition to these two?
Correct.
Okay. So there's not a way of going ahead and voting on it now and one of these two filling that future role, correct? So we would have to postpone this for them to be eligible for the next term.
Just to open it back up.
Open it back, okay.
Yeah. Commissioner Jay?
The next meeting is in October, but I would recommend going ahead and you have two applicants that have asked to serve or offered to serve on this now. And if you wait and postpone it, then you're going to appoint somebody literally days or maybe even a little couple weeks right before the first meeting versus you have two applicants here that are willing to go ahead and join the board and onboard and train and be ready and serve. And then if, and be up and running before the next board meeting. So I would recommend moving forward, and you have two people willing to serve, pick one and get them ready so that they're ready in the October meeting.
Commissioner Russell?
I agree with Commissioner Jay. Just as having just recently been new to the commission, I understand how important it is to have time to get to know your fellow commissioners, your fellow board members, that kind of thing, and learn the process. So I think the more time that we give them, the more successful they'll be.
Commissioner Fox?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I concur with Commissioner Jay. I think the time to have raised this point was before we heard from the people that spent the time to put together their application and to speak, and for us to listen to what they had to say. So I'm going to align with Commissioner Jay on this.
Commissioner Frazier?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Actually, this is the time to have that discussion. We heard from the applicants last week. We have this week to now to reach out and ask questions and to also remind the body that just because you're appointing someone to fulfill an incomplete term does not mean that that person will be the person chosen to continue. It will have to be opened up again for additional applications. And so if the individuals who have applied, I think if the body were to determine that they wanted to wait, they could reapply. And again, it would be opened up. But just because you're putting them on for the next couple of months does not guarantee they will be the one to continue in that seat.
Commissioner Lee?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to ask the law director if we could do that, if this body agrees to go ahead and appoint them for that next term.
Commissioner L has a good point. It wasn't advertised for that. Apart from that, I probably could, particularly since the position's open right now, isn't it? An open seat? Is that correct?
Yes.
So normally, in a position like this, you would appoint for the rest of the term, and then you would reopen it at the end of the term. Is there anything I can think of that would prevent you from doing it, apart from the fact that it wasn't advertised for that I don't know that you couldn't.
Okay. Commissioner Hill.
So just to clarify, since there's no meeting, there's nothing occurring, whoever we appointed would do nothing? So
I imagine they would do onboarding and training with the staff of the merit system and the other board members.
is that something that typically is already, so they could, in theory, train for 1 month and then not be reappointed?
Good.
I'm just asking.
I mean, because that is a good point. If we appoint somebody today, then that appointment will come open again, and they will have to reapply. So, Commissioner Russell?
That's true unless we elect for them to continue and take over the next term, if this body elects to do that. Because Mr. Moyer said that there's nothing preventing us from doing that if that's what we elect to do.
I think we changed the rules, though, didn't we? That all the appointments have to be open application? We did. Is that not correct?
That's why the fact that this wasn't advertised to be an appointment to the next term is problematic. If you want to do that, I think you can do it, but I think you need to advertise for it. It's possible. I don't know if anybody asked the applicants, but it's possible that they applied because they knew it was only going to be a 2-month term. So, I think that has to be declared if you're going to move it on for the next, for the whole next term that's coming open.
Commissioner Thompson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. In all fairness to the applicants who took the time to submit the applications and meet with us, and with them knowing that it was going to be a 2, maybe 3-month appointment, I think it only fair to them to go ahead and have the vote to appoint them for the short term, because they've gone through the process. They've done their due diligence and effort in this. So I think, in fairness to them, to go ahead and have the vote to appoint them. That way, if by chance they choose to reapply for the next session, and they are in, then they've already gone through the orientation. They're ready to go.
And I think, are both applicants present?
Just one. He said he might be here last week.
Okay. And who is here? I'm missing. Is it Ms. Brennan?
I see
Oh,
Ms.
Ms.
Brennan,
Brennan.
I don't see Mr.
Okay, I
Shelton.
thought I saw you straight back there. You moved on me. I'm sorry. So you're aware that you've applied for this, and then you've got to reapply if you want to stay on, correct? So you're aware of that? Okay, just making sure.
If I may, Madam Chair, would your intention be to reapply? Thank you.
Mr. Moyer, did you have something?
No, I'm sorry.
Okay. I didn't want to miss you. Okay, so we have the two right now. Oh, Commissioner Lee.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. I just had a question. If her intent is to reapply, and so could we not take a vote to see if she got the vote tonight, Mr. Moyers? Or you're saying we could or we couldn't?
Yeah, we changed the rule.
Yeah, I mean, when there's an open position, it has to be advertised, and so we advertised this one for this 2-month term. That's what's on the table right now. I think if you wanted to do an early appointment for the term that's coming up, you would have to advertise it that way.
Thank you.
Commissioner Rawls?
Madam Chair, I would agree with what Commissioner Thompson just said. I mean, obviously, Ms. Brennan and the other gentleman applied knowing that they would only sit for 2 months. and then that process will be open again for applicants. I think us changing the game, the rules of the game right now would be a little muddy, and I think we'd have to work through it. So I think I would be of the opinion we go back to the original rules, just vote for one of them, let them sit for 2 months, then open it back up when the time frame happens, and follow our own rules on that, and
Yep.
Okay.
So let me go back. Commissioner Jay made the motion to
Cease nominations.
cease
and proceed with
nominations
the vote.
and vote on the two that we have. Did I have a second on that?
Second.
Commissioner Durrett, okay. All right, making sure we're all on the same page. So we're gonna start with Commissioner Rawls, and you will name the candidate that you want, okay? And they are J.B. Brennan and Dylan Shelton. Yes.
Commissioner Rawls. From his-
I'd like to stick with my nomination for Ms. Brennan.
Commissioner Durrett.
Oh, okay. I'm voting for Ms. Brennan, sorry.
Commissioner Durrett.
Brennan.
Commissioner Oster.
Brennan.
Commissioner Jackson.
Brennan.
Commissioner Russell.
Brennan.
Commissioner Hill.
Brennan.
Commissioner Lee.
Brennan.
Commissioner Thompson.
Brennan.
Commissioner Fox. Commissioner Jay. Commissioner Frazier.
All right. Does the pass wish to vote?
I do not.
All right, so we have, yes, 10 for Ms. Brennan and 1 pass. Commissioner Russell, do you have anything?
Oh, no.
Madam Chair, I think we have to put her name into the
We
motion.
do.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, we do. All right. Now, if you can read the new one. It is, yes.
Okay. This is a resolution accepting the resignation of Christopher Manning on the Knox County Sheriff's Office Employees Merit System Board of Directors and appointing J.B. Brennan to serve the unfulfilled term of Mr. Manning on the board. Term expires September 30th, 2025.
Thank you. Now, do I have a motion to approve? All right, that was Thompson and Lee? Okay. And do we have any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? One no. Commissioner Frazier? And the motion passes. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ms. Brennan. Don't forget, you've got to reapply if you want, okay, if you want to. All right, next item, please.
Resolution R-25-7-501 is approving the substantial amendments to Knox County's 2020 through 2024 Consolidated Plan and the Annual Action Plans of Program Years PY 2020, PY 2021, and PY 2024 for various project and program-related activities and allocations benefiting low to moderate income persons of Knox County, federally funded through U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development's HUD Community Development Grant, Block Grant, CARES Act, CDBG-CV, Home American Rescue Plan, Home-ARP, and Community Development Block Grant, CDBG funds, no local match required.
Thank you. Do I have a motion?
Second.
I've got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Jay and second by Commissioner Durrett. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed?
And I'm going to pass.
We've got a pass from Commissioner Russell and a no from Commissioner Fox. And Lee will pass also. All right, the motion passes. Next item, please.
Resolution R-25-7-502, approving amendment number 2 to the agreement with Sacred Ground Hospice House for end-of-life hospice care to uninsured persons of Knox County, subject to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, approval, which amendment extends the term of the agreement to June 30th, 2026, and provides additional CDBG-CV funds in the amount of $64,804.57 for a total of $114,562.57, federally funded through HUD's Community Development Block Grant CARES Act CDBG-CV funds. No local match required.
Motion to approve.
I got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Jay and a second by Commissioner Rawls. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? We got one no. Motion passes. Next item, please.
Resolution R-25-7-902 to levy an increase in mineral severance tax from 15 cents to 20 cents per ton for Knox County.
I have a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Thompson and a second by Commissioner Durrett.
Thank you.
Yes. Commissioner Thompson.
Sorry.
Okay, Commissioner Durrett.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just some brief background to this. This past legislative session, the state passed an increase from 15 cents to 20 cents per ton. And so for those counties that have opted into the mineral severance tax, they can, if they wish to do so, increase it with 2/3 vote. And so that's why this is here, because we, in June of 2022, decided to approve our mineral severance tax. So that's all this is.
Thank you. Commissioner Thompson?
And in addition to that, after speaking with Director Snowden, these funds can only be used on road improvements. So it doesn't add to our general fund. It's only on road improvements, and is fairly well supported and by the mining companies in the county.
Perfect. All right. Okay, we've got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Thompson, second by Commissioner Durrett. Any more discussion? Seeing none, we'll start in District 2, and this is a roll call vote.
Commissioner Barrett,
Aye.
Commissioner Oster,
Aye.
Commissioner Jackson,
Aye.
Commissioner Russell,
Yes.
Commissioner Hill, Commissioner Lee, Commissioner Thompson,
Aye.
Commissioner Fox, Commissioner Jay,
No.
Commissioner Fraser,
Aye.
Commissioner Rawls.
Aye.
10 aye, 1 no. Thank you. Motion passes. Next item, please.
That's it on all the business items, the public forum, open topics. Public forum, open topics.
First one signed up is Savannah Smith. Ms. Smith, if you will state your name and county of residence, and you have up to 5 minutes to address commission.
Savannah Smith, Knox County. As we know from past hearings and media coverage, the Richard L. Bean Detention Center for Juveniles is emerging from an era of significant mismanagement. I appreciate this committee's prioritization of the issue, including its passage of Ordinance 25-6-102 at your last meeting, and the progress that has been made in administrative modernization since the passage of that ordinance. Much has been done in the short time since Mr. Bean's departure from his role as superintendent. However, I worry that the center's woes have been framed as merely a leadership crisis, and that there has not been enough meaningful discussion of the underlying civil and human rights breaches that occurred within the facility in the years prior to Mr. Bean's departure. The center placed children under punitive solitary confinement in violation of DCS standards. The Bean Center's regular use of this tactic is well documented in multiple DCS inspection reports and media reports, including national publications. Solitary confinement as a form of punishment is considered a form of torture according to psychiatric consensus. If enforced for an extended period of time, it stands as a violation of the Geneva Convention, a well-known war crimes convention, under Article 89, Section 3. Solitary confinement of children is officially considered to be a form of torture under international law, including 2 other UN conventions. Solitary confinement is so psychologically damaging that soldiers in active war are legally protected from it. Yet children in our county were allowed to sit for days at a time under that sort of mental duress before they had been convicted of any crime while they were awaiting hearings and trial. And this is again documented in reports from DCS and in multiple major media sources. I wish I could provide those to you today, but I do not have the exact documents at hand. I will refrain from speculating on who knew about this prior, although I can only imagine. I will mention that Mr. Bean's contempt for his ward was hardly secret. 1 year ago, he gave this comment, quote, to ProPublica, a national newsroom, quote, "What we do is treat everybody like they're in here for murder," unquote. It seems that Mr. Bean either never understood or never cared to respect the presumption of innocence of his wards. Presumption of innocence, of course, is a right invoked in 3 constitutional amendments, 5th, 6th, and 14th. It is robustly reaffirmed by case law, namely Taylor versus Kentucky. It is not a minor misstep to deny it from the course of justice. It is not merely a procedural issue. Even more appalling, the detention center opposed that extreme seclusion as punishment on children who were not convicted of any crime, as previously mentioned. Not convicted, therefore not criminals. My concern with the future of the center is accountability for these sorts of missteps. The Knox County Sheriff's Office is designated to begin managing the center in January, according to that ordinance as previously mentioned, but I pause to support this leadership transition in light of the department's management of the Roger D. Wilson Detention Center, which, as recently as January, allowed 2 inmates to die in their care after dismissing the detainees' poor conditions. In one case, a detainee was told that they were faking their distress. This is caught on body camera footage. And in another case, after subjecting an unwell inmate to violent treatment, that inmate died in the facility. This is unacceptable in an adult context, but children are ever more precious. And considering the up to recent disregard for their rights and treatment at the facility, we need to leave no stone unturned to ensure that they are protected and respected while in custody. Again, I appreciate the steps that have been taken up until this point to ensure that. But I am concerned that putting the Sheriff's Department in control of the facility with their current record may lead the city and the county and basically the entire state to liability of negligence. It may potentially waste taxpayer dollars in civil rights lawsuits. Not good for anybody, but particularly the children in the care of the facility. So my question for you, members of the committee, knowing that some of you will be on the next board overseeing the facility, what accountability mechanisms will you instate to ensure the Sheriff's Department adheres to constitutional protocol? Because such mechanisms are long overdue.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. I appreciate you addressing commission. Have a good evening.
Thank you for your audience.
Thank you. Ms. Frazier. Ms. Frazier, hi. If you'll give your name and county of residence, please.
I am Teresa Frazier, Knox County.
Thank you. And what would you like to talk to us about today?
I want to discuss a problem that has developed in the construction project of the new Shad Road extension and Ball Camp Pike. I moved to Ball Camp Pike 5 years ago, and at that time, my driveway dropped 4 feet in about 60 feet length. Now, the driveway is raising 30 feet above the previous level. Because of that extreme drop, a lot of attention was put into putting guardrails along the side of what is now called Byington Sawway Road. However, my driveway is just as high and it enters onto that area, and I don't have any kind of protection from the drop of those extreme angles of the road driveway to the basis below my driveway. that is about a 30-foot drop. At the bottom, there is no way to get a vehicle out of there. There is a collection of ponding on both sides of my driveway. And because of the likelihood of turning into my driveway, especially during bad weather, even in winter time, it's possible that a car could slide off of that and end up at the bottom of those inclines or declines. So I'm asking that some kind of protection be put there in lieu of guardrails, which I originally had asked about, and I am hoping you can approve that.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And have you reached out to Mr. Snowden?
I have.
Okay, and he is right back there, so if you want to grab his ear, you guys can chat for a second.
Okay.
And maybe that'll answer some of your questions for
Okay.
you. Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much. I appreciate it. Do we have any other business? All right. I want to say that we've got our August 18th and 25th meeting. I want to go ahead and tell you guys that we'll do our reorg September 2nd. That way I know that some go out of town for Labor Day, so I want to go ahead and give you the calendar now so you'll know that the reorg will be that Tuesday? Yeah, after the 2nd. And I will leave you with this. Great things are done by a series of small things brought together. And I think that's very true in the work that we do. We see a bunch of small things before sometimes we see the big things done. So if there's nothing else to come before this commission, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second? All right, we are adjourned. Have a good evening.